Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I'm doing a live stream on Rumble and on YouTube. You're going to hear some background noise because there's construction going on in my building, but please watch the live stream on Rumble, or you can watch the dashboard on YouTube. I'm going to set up the live streams on my website as we're going through these videos. I'll also be having a simulcast with X Spaces. You can do a call-in with X Spaces. So with that said, thank you for joining. I greatly appreciate it. Please help support my work by making sure you subscribe to all my channels. I have 4 channels on YouTube: Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. I do get strikes on YouTube periodically, so it's really important that you subscribe to all my channels so you can know when I'm doing a live stream. Maybe I have to switch to a different channel for a live stream or whatever, but I did get a new strike on one of my channels, so please help support my work by making sure that you subscribe to all my channels. Again, I'm live streaming on Rumble and on YouTube. The YouTube version has the market telemetry. The market has opened up. We're going to go over that soon. But please help support my work by donating on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee, or be a paid member to my Patreon channel. All the links are in the description of this video and all my videos. So click the link to my website or to my Patreon channel and be a paid member on Patreon, or donate. You can donate on Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee. It's through the donations that allows me to do these videos for free. I have thousands of videos for free. I don't put stuff behind a paywall. I don't believe that that's the right way to communicate with people. This show is supposed to be interactive with the audience, so please type in your questions in the chat, or join the X Spaces and you can do a call-in. So please help support my work. These videos that I do, it's to inform you about what's going on with the economy, what's going on with international affairs, what's going on domestically in the United States, also scientific endeavors, and health and wellness. So you get a lot. So please help support my work. But you can also support my work, and it's a win-win type of situation, by purchasing the products that I have. I have ebooks, different supplements, and courses that you can purchase for only $50 about pulmonology and immunology. So please help support my work by purchasing the products that I have. Let me talk about one of the products that I have on my store that is beneficial for you, and that is the structural nano silver soaps. You can get it in charcoal tea tree or charcoal tea tree. You can also get it in lemongrass. I don't have it in my hand, but you can get charcoal tea tree and lemongrass in the old packaging. And you can get in the new packaging, same quality structural nano silver soap in peppermint and in lavender. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get a couple bars or a few bars for your household. Help support my work and help support your wellness, your health and wellness. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the soaps, the structural nano silver soaps. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off. All right. With that said, I'm going to transition to the video. Let's go to Bloomberg at the moment here while I set up my website live stream.
Would consider that an upgrade potential. So one of the topics we hear a lot about at this conference and a lot of conferences over the last couple of years is alternative investments, not just private credit, private equity and hedge funds, but also private credit. How do you and your private clients at B of A Merrill, how do you guys think about that?
Well, we think of it as an alternative piece of credit, right? And at the same time, right now, where it is in the cycle, stay high quality. Don't reach for the lower quality end of private credit right now, even though you're going to get a little bit of pickup in yield. You can do that in the normal high yield market. We don't see any big default cycle coming. We're kind of through the hornet's nest of that recycle of going from 0% interest rates sharply up to 5%. So we look at private credit as an alternative source of credit as a part of a build out of a portfolio on the private side.
Okay, so if we were looking at the 60-40, or like, just don't think of it like that. Is it what percent is equities, what is fixed income, and in fixed income, what would be your traditional stuff versus a private credit?
So you start with the role it's going to play.
Okay.
If you're looking for it to be in a yield or a yield enhancing strategy for you, that comes from fixed income. If you're going to pick up a little bit of the equity, which some parts of private credit can do, then it's a little bit of a combination of both. We don't have any one particular allocation to private credit. It kind of depends on the individual. But at the end of the day, I think you're going to consistently see this. It's gone from an asset class that basically had nothing in it to $2 trillion. Ultimately, they're probably increasing that over the course of the next decade for sure. So we're going to constantly be adding to it.
We talked a little bit about Europe earlier. There's actually been some pretty good performance out of Europe in this first quarter vis-a-vis the U.S., and that has not been the case for a long time. Does that change your allocation? I mean, do you risk kind of chasing this performance?
The U.S. reached 70% of the world market cap. Extraordinary. I remember in the 1990s, it barely broke the 52% level, and everybody got excited. Now you're talking 70%, and it makes sense for everything that's going on in the last 20 plus years. We think it's a little excessive. We don't believe that America dominance from an equity market standpoint is over, but we think people should reassess their allocation overseas and not and overseas investing. Typically, the window opens and it closes. And usually it closes because they can't compete on growth, they can't compete on yields, and ultimately the dollar doesn't stay weak. It ultimately strengthens again. You're starting to see winds of change there. So this is a great time to reassess and put that at the top of your watch list for a potential upgrade.
And I'm assuming you're talking about the fiscal break kind of coming off the boil in Germany. So like this time it maybe actually is different.
It seems
Famous last words, right?
It seems like that. And there's a lot of investors who think the international markets didn't participate in that narrow leadership. They did. A lot of the companies that led the market, even now in this year, particularly in Europe, they get most of their revenues outside of Europe. They just happen to be domiciled there. But you're going to pick up value. And it doesn't mean you go from growth to value. You have a broad mix of both.
How about back here in the U.S. valuation? What's the valuation call here? Earnings have been good, but are they good enough?
This is where it gets interesting, right? The whole second derivative argument is slowing down, and the first mover, when the second derivative is going up, higher velocity, get higher earnings growth, you start early, you benefit from that. Now you start to see a little cresting of that second derivative. You're slowing down, but earnings growth should still be okay. Our view is pretty simple. Valuation, if billions of investors feel comfortable paying 20 times forward earnings, who are we to argue with that? Until something changes. What's that something? We have to see earnings growth fade and ultimately go down to almost 0, 3, 2%, keeping with inflation. We don't see that. So we are comfortable with valuation right now. We understand it's at premium, but our last point on this is pretty simple. If the leaders have been, and the leaders of tomorrow are going to consistently be asset light, they have high cash rich, they have good balance sheets, they have low fixed labor, why shouldn't they have premium valuations? And that's how we see the market moving in the next 10 years. It's going to become increasingly asset light, which keeps valuations a little higher than what we've come to know in the last 30, 40 years.
Before I let you go, thoughts and comments on a potential recession in the U.S. What are you guys modeling right now?
Very low level. Obviously, if tariffs stay and they stick and they're across the board and it ultimately becomes a tax on growth, we would have to reset.
And stay and stick means like forever tariffs.
Forever tariffs, at least, or if they just stay and stick through the year and into next year, it could harm growth pretty aggressively. So we'll be watching that closely, but we have a very low probability on any recession risk in the foreseeable future.
Villanova basketball, tough loss at Georgetown last night, 18-13 on the year. What's going on down in Philly?
I don't even want to talk about last night. Let's talk about humble and hungry, which is who we are, and we're going to move on, and we're going to do really well.
Are they having a hard time adjusting to the nil and transfer portfolio kind of thing?
Everybody is.
Right.
Yeah, it's a whole new state out there. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. We like friendly competition. We're going to look forward to the Big East. It's going to be very, very fun. And Big East is back.
Big East back, Cupertino's back. See, it's not getting a little. The Villanova people, they're very passionate about their hoops.
Hey, man, I support sports. I support you supporting sports.
My father was all set to go to Villanova,
Yes.
and then the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor.
Oh,
Changing
wow.
plans for him and like a lot of people. So soft spot in the heart for
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough.
Chris Heisey, thanks so much for joining us. Chris Heisey, Chief Investment Officer, Bank of America Private Bank at Merrill, here at our Bloomberg Invest Conference. A lot of smart people running around here.
Yeah, it's really great, actually. I mean, all these people that you see through the screens, and now they're real, and you're
Yeah.
talking, and you get lots of time to chat. Coming up, we will do just that with Yep Kim, a Chief Investment Officer at Texas Municipal Retirement System. So they manage about 40 billion plus pensions in today's very complex system. So a lot to get through. Like, how do you find the return?
Yep.
Where do you do that? Where does private credit land, and how fully funded are you? Plus the different rules of whether for a pension in Texas versus, say, in New York. We will break all of that down for you. Take a look at the market. After yesterday, this feels like a little calm breath. Volume is light. Equity is going absolutely nowhere on that stronger services data. This is Bloomberg Intelligence live from the Bloomberg Invest Conference.
Thank you for joining. The ones that are watching on Rumble, we're live streaming on Rumble. We're also live streaming on YouTube and on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and simulcasting with X Spaces. If you want to do a call in to X Spaces, just go to my X Spaces or X channel and go to the spaces that's opened up for episode 31. And you can ask a question or just tell me what you think is going on in the world, especially your take on Trump's speech last night. I think it was a great speech, but you can voice your opinion on it. Okay, with that, I want to go to Al Jazeera. They're talking about tariffs with Canada.
And that's a fine objective. He's using tariffs and intimidation to reindustrialize his country, a country that was deindustrialized by Republicans and Democrats alike, from Ronald Reagan right up until the financial crisis. And he sees this as a kind of a shortcut to reindustrialize the United States. That's one plausible explanation. And this shortcut, of course, won't work. It's extremely damaging.
President Trump also imposed 25% tariffs on Mexico, blaming America's southern neighbor for failing to crack down on the flow of migrants and drugs across the border. John Coleman reports on Mexico's response.
They're finally here. President Trump's long-threatened 25% tariffs on all Mexican goods. The reaction from President Sheinbaum was a mixture. Outrage at the reason given by the US administration for the tariffs. It said her government's allied with drug cartels.
The White House published an offensive, defamatory, and unsubstantiated statement about the Mexican government.
But with a sliver of hope, too. She says she has a call with the US president on Thursday before she announces any retaliatory tariffs to try and work things out. It worked last month when she managed temporarily to put President Trump off.
There could still be the possibility of changing the tariffs announced or another delay of 30 days. That call is crucial to define the immediate future.
If it fails, the consequences are dire. Mexico depends on an open US market. 80% of its exports head there. Mexico's had 3 decades of free trade agreements with the United States. Integration with the American economy is something that's built into its business DNA. So this comes as a huge shock. The huge cross-border auto industry, Mexican farmers who supply the states with half its fruit and 2/3 of its vegetables. They could all be affected, along with the many international border factories known as maquiladoras, producing in Mexico to sell into the States.
It's a dark panorama. Employment at the factories, which makes up 60% of the jobs at the border, will keep going down. And that will mean more crime, more security problems, and more people crossing to the US to try to get work there.
Mexico isn't completely defenseless. It is, after all, one of the US's top 2 export markets, along with Canada. Claudia Sheinbaum says she will reluctantly announce retaliatory tariffs on US goods this Sunday, if her phone call with Donald Trump doesn't work.
No one wins with this decision. On the contrary, it affects the people that we represent.
John Holman, Al Jazeera, Mexico City.
The bottom line is
President Trump
this.
says
The bottom line is this. With tariffs, these countries like Mexico and Canada are going to hurt more than the United States. Now, the United States will see some elevation of certain prices, and maybe some goods not even be able to be provided because of a shutdown of supply chain, like certain types of cars. But so what? If those car makers really want to sell those cars and there's really a demand for them, they should be making them in the United States. Very simple. Now they're going to say, well, it's much cheaper to make them overseas, in other countries or overseas, and just ship parts and do final assembly or whatever. And that would cost so much more to build up new factories and new supply chains and all this stuff. The reality of the situation is that we have gutted our manufacturing base. Now, that professor that was being interviewed on Al Jazeera was, saying, well, if you're going to undo this shortcut that Trump's trying to do to rebuild manufacturing in the United States, that people, it's a bad idea and people will suffer. Well, people will suffer through short-term inflation, but there's going to be long-term benefit when you have more manufacturing and economic clustering in your country. Now, who's really going to be hurting the most is Mexico and Canada, because they're doing things to provide us with goods, but we're not making them. So we're shipping our jobs to them. And it's not reciprocal trade. They're not buying as much as we make or manufacture or grow. And not only that, they make it a situation where they're protecting their certain industries, so we can't sell goods into their country. So why are we even trading with them? Oh, it's not about the little person, the average citizen of the United States with having cheaper goods. It's about individuals that are stockholders, shareholders, that will benefit more if the goods are made in different countries and then shipped to the United States for purchase or final assembly and then purchase. It's not you. It's not you. Think about this. Think about how many parts are on a car. If all those parts were made in the United States, think about all the jobs and all the economic clustering that would take place. It may be a little bit more expensive, but guess what? There'll be more people working in the United States. Now, if you only have the final assembly in the United States, how many jobs are provided? Just the number of people for the assembly line. You got to start thinking about the secondary, the tertiary effects of globalization. And you lose economic clustering because of globalization. And the ones that are pontificating that it's all that bringing back manufacturing and localizing is bad, they're usually taking the perspective of the shareholder. And most people are not going to benefit that much from elevated stock prices. You're not going to benefit that much from elevated stock prices. But people that are big shareholders in GM or Ford, they will. But it's not just the automakers. This is also tied into agriculture. and subsidies, and it's a web. It's a very complex web that Trump is trying to untangle. But the automotive industry, which I know very well, I'll tell you what, we have lost the economic clustering because of globalization, and it's weakened us. It's weakened us economically, and it has weakened us with a skill set, a technological skill set that is not hard. It's not easy to obtain, but it's not hard to just throw away. We just shipped all away, all that technical know-how, and now you have the newer generation that doesn't know anything, doesn't know how to build anything, doesn't know how to engineer. They're just the main reason why the United States is so much more powerful than the UK is because we had one foot in kind of this old world, litigious, common law kind of thing. But we also were born in the crucible of in the Industrial Revolution and all the technological know-how from that. And we accelerated our economy way past the UK, way in terms of engineering and just economic prowess, way past the United Kingdom. But we shipped it all away. And now we have children that don't know anything. That's a big problem. It's a big problem. Now, when you have war, you need to have manufacturing to be able to sustain the war. Look at what was happening with Ukraine and Russia with their war. Their stress is within their manufacturing capability, especially Russia. Do you think that would be a prudent thing to do, to ship your manufacturing away, especially your shipyards, and so you can't build ships anymore? When the next war is probably going to be a naval war in Asia? No, I don't think so. I don't think that's the prudent thing to do. So when you listen to these people that are experts, supposedly experts about globalization, they're almost always going to take the position of a globalist, of the shareholder, but they're going to try to scare you to think that Trump's policies are bad because your goods are going to be more expensive. But you got to look at the full equation here. The goods will be more expensive, but you'll have more jobs, and your debt to GDP ratio will go down. So the economy is actually better. And when you have more people on manufacturing in the United States, you're going to have more businesses. And when you have more businesses and more competition, it's going to drive the price down. But it's going to take a little while to do that. It took 35 years to have this type of globalization. It's going to take some time to unravel it. But unraveling it in the long term is best for the United States. So don't believe the bullshit. No matter how many degrees they have, no matter where they're talking from, it doesn't matter if it's from an Ivy League school or some sort of, prestigious think tank. Doesn't matter. If they can't answer this simple question, why is building a manufacturing base in the United States bad for the United States? Why? They can't answer that. They'll just say, oh, tariffs are going to hurt the economy. Yeah, short term, but long term it's not. Because what we've had for the last 35 years is just a steady increase in our debt to GDP ratio. Our math skills in the United States and our engineering skills are going down. And we are more reliant on social programs and debt financing. Do you think that's sustainable? Which one would you prefer to have? A more viable solution that helps your family and future generations to make the United States have a better economic footing in the future, and take the pain now, or just kick the can down the road where literally the country will go bankrupt. Because the globalist model is this: reduce the manufacturing, shareholders will continue to get their additional income and appreciation of their assets. The Federal Reserve keeps on printing money, and the country continues to go into debt. The Treasury Department has to balance has to print out bonds because Congress is overspending. And so you have some foreign countries that are selling their goods. They collect American dollars and they take some of that American dollars and buy treasuries. So basically we're importing inflation. We're importing deflation, but we're exporting debt. And that debt is at such a level that what's going to happen is that it's going to be inflationary. And we're seeing the effects of it. And then when the economy starts to have problems, starting to have convulsions, then the Federal Reserve starts printing more money. It's a big problem. But these experts are only looking at the tariff side of this. Oh, tariffs, it's going to cause supply chain disruption and higher cost of goods. Yeah, short term, maybe. It's not for sure that that's what's going to happen. But by moving manufacturing back here, we have a stronger manufacturing base for our military, but not only that, the economic clustering for our own society. So smaller businesses will be created that are not publicly traded. And so it doesn't have to deal with the whims of the analysts on Wall Street. See, the bigger companies you have, the more actually fragile the system may become. Because what happens is for that stock to continue to go up and up and up and up, you have to become more efficient and sell more and more, maybe acquire companies and build that revenue stream and that profitability. And if you don't, then Wall Street hurts you. But the moment you stop, you get off of that whole publicly traded train, you can actually run a company very efficiently and very profitable and not have these whims of the analysts. That's why a lot of times companies go private after they've been in the public arena for a while. They have some problems because of the economy or some sort of restructuring of the company, and they go private. So they don't have to deal with all that BS. By bringing back manufacturing, more small businesses will be created. But the ones that are powerful are the ones that are large corporations that are publicly traded, they're very global. And because they're very global, they have lobbying power, and they do advertisements on mainstream media. And the narrative is demonize Trump and his tax policy and his tariff policy, because that tariff policy is detrimental to their business and their shareholders. But they don't really care about the person that doesn't own their shares. They don't care about how, by shipping the jobs away, it hurt the economic clustering of American small towns. They don't care. They never have. But they're going to tell you on mainstream media that Orange Man's bad because he's going to increase a tariff. So you got to ask the question, when they say that, who are they representing? Are they really representing the middle class? Or are they representing the uber wealthy? Are they representing institutional investors? Are they representing large multinational corporations? And almost always, they are representing those powerful entities that are pushing globalization. All right, before we go to another video here, I'll probably take a look at, I'll probably take a look at Fox Business. But before we do that, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support my work. Get the great products that I offer. Stack it the way I'd stack it to help with your health and wellness. Probiotics are really important to take. I have a veggie cap version and a powdered version. I take the powdered version because I take a lot of different powders, like Boomer Boost and lignans and collagen and gladiator barley, but other people may not, and they just prefer to take a veggie cap version. Both are very high quality, and it's important to take a good probiotic to bring down inflammation in your gut, to improve energy absorption, maintain that mucosal lining. The thicker the lining is, the more healthy it is. If you have the right microenvironment, right, for your gut, then you are going to have a better metabolism. And you're also going to have a better immune system. And you're going to be less irritable. And you're going to have better sleep. So it's really important to improve your gut right away. You can see manifestations of a bad gut by people that are overweight, actually. Their metabolism isn't right. But there's problems with their skin or their hair or their nails. You can see the manifestations of a bad gut. Now, if you improve your gut biome, then you're going to improve the communication between your gut and your liver and your gut and your brain. You're going to sleep better. Your skin's going to be better. You're going to have more energy. Your metabolism's going to be better. Your immune system's going to be better. You're going to be able to detoxify your body better because your liver is a major detox organ. Try living without your liver. You got a big problem. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5 on any order, all caps, discount 5, get $5 off. Get the probiotics, stack it with other things like the multivitamin and the core health protocol that I have. It's a great way to get healthy. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Now, before I go to Fox Business, some people ask me, what's the core? All right, it's 4 pillars in this core protocol. The first pillar is max 35 or max 14 to boost up your immune system. C60 to bring down free radicals, reactive oxygen species. You want to bring those down. Turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans, take them together to bring down inflammation and boost up your immune system. And Boomer Boost to improve your energy levels and your metabolism. When you do that as a core, and you add things to it like the probiotics and the multivitamins and other supplements that I'm going to be talking about, you're going to supercharge your health. Now, this stuff works. This is what I do, all right? Now, not everybody can do everything that I do. I understand that they can't afford it. Most people can't afford what I do, all right? But I can teach you how to stack this in such a way to get the max benefit for what you need. All right? Now, if you follow everything I do, you're going to be even better off. You're going to be like super anti-ager, all right? But not everybody can afford to be a super anti-ager at this moment in time. I understand that. That's why I've tried to build certain things on my store to bring the price points down, such as the anti-aging boxes and the longevity boxes, and using the discount 5. Those boxes are priced lower than purchasing individual products. I want these products in your hand because they work. All right. So just follow my lead. You listen to me carefully, and I will help you get healthy. But it's a win-win situation. You purchase the products, you're helping me to do this endeavor, but you're also getting healthy at the same time. And what I'm doing is much more comprehensive than anybody that you listen to that is in this realm of health and wellness, because it's a holistic approach. It's not just the supplementation and the way you stack it, but it's a holistic approach. Proper diet, proper exercise. You got to balance. You got to do the resistance training. You got to do cardio. You got to do stretching. Proper sleep. Clean your environment. Detoxify your body and your environment, because you're exposed to a lot of toxins. And learn new things. And by learning new things, you're going to have positive neuroplasticity. It's a holistic approach when I'm trying to teach everybody here. And it works. So help support my work or don't. It's up to you. The bottom line is this. You don't follow what I have to say, you will later on in life have problems. That's guaranteed. Now the question is, do you want to listen or not? It's up to you. All right.
Fifth such speech to Congress. And once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely
I have a problem with the speaker.
I find a cure to the most. Or announce the answers to the greatest economy in history. This is my fifth such speech to Congress. And once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do. I could find a cure to the most devastating disease or announce the answers to the greatest economy in history. And these people sitting right here will not clap, will not stand, because they won't do it no matter what.
President Trump calling out Democrats during his joint address to Congress last night. There were plenty of controversial moments to be seen. Texas Congressman Lance Gooden ripped a "this is not normal" sign out of New Mexico Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury's hands while Trump entered the room. House Speaker Mike Johnson says Democrat Congressman Al Green could be censored for disrupting the address last night. Green was ultimately removed from the chamber after several warnings about speaking over the president while the president was delivering his remarks. Democrats also held protest signs. Well, many of them dressed in pink. They claimed to support women. Many also refused to stand or clap at any point, even when Trump honored a 13-year-old cancer survivor, or the lives of Laken Riley or Jocelyn Nungaray.
For the ones that don't know, I did a live stream of the speech last night, and I mentioned that it was shocking how the Democratic Party, the other side of the aisle, wasn't willing to join and honor some of these guests that Trump had in the peanut gallery, especially the child that survived cancer. I mean, it's just appalling, absolutely appalling. There's something demonically wrong with the Democratic Party. There is an evilness in them.
Did not stand. They were both killed by illegal migrants, and yet the Democrats stayed seated. Jocelyn's mother, Alexis, called out the Democrats as well on Fox News last night. Watch.
I found it very cowardly that a lot of the Democrats didn't stand, didn't clap, didn't do anything. They don't stand for anything humane. They don't stand for us as
you got to remember, it was her daughter that was killed by an illegal immigrant. Illegal alien is the technical term, the legal term. But the thing is that the Democratic Party doesn't want to stand up and actually do the right thing and solve problems. They want to look at the ground. They don't want America to be prosperous and looking into the future and be exploring. And go, into the great beyond. The ethos of America, the ethos of the United States is doing the impossible. That is what we are. That's what we will always be. But the thing is, the Democratic Party keeps on trying to look at the ground. They just look down. They're not looking up. They're not thinking big. They're thinking small. And they want corruption. It's all about power, making sure that the minority is on their urban plantation and make sure that you vote in a block. That's how they think. And the thing is that she lost her daughter because of fucked up policies by the Democratic Party.
Joining me now is Tennessee Congressman Andy Ogles. Congressman, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for being here this morning. What the heck went on in that chamber last night? It's pretty incredible to me that this morning we're talking about, according to a CBS poll, 76% of the people thought that
Maria, sit down. DrPaulCottrell is going to tell you something that you never fucking heard before. And that is what you saw in that chamber was the actual manifestation of the splitting of Esau. That's what you saw. There's a positive, countries and individuals and bodies of groups of people have energy, have soul roots that are tied to Jacob, Esau, or Ishmael. Really simple. And what you saw was the actual polarization that takes place with the Esau soul root manifested in our representatives. Now, at the countrywide level, most of the country, the soul root of the country, not the people, but the soul root of the country is mostly Jacob, not Esau. But there's an element of the United States that's Esau. But what you saw in that room was the actual polarization of positive Esau and negative Esau, the intellect and the body. And the body is animalistic and doesn't have compassion. It's all about itself and self-gratification. The head of Esau, the positive Esau of the soul root, is the intellect that will align with Jacob and Ishmael. And so what you saw was actually the physical manifestation of the polarization of the soul root. I'm not wrong. I know I'm right on this. No one's smart enough to understand
speech
this.
was very positive. 69%, according to a CNN poll, also felt a favorable feeling after President Trump's remarks, and yet the Democrats won't stand for any of these things.
Yeah, I mean, it was an absolute disgrace. I mean, like you mentioned, the president pointed out and honored a young man who survived brain cancer, victims of violent crime, and they didn't even have the decency to stand. There were moments where he was proud of his country, our country, and they didn't stand for that. And so this was an absolute disgrace on the Democratic Party. This is a representative of their lack of leadership, lack of vision, and quite frankly, a lot of the victims that were in the crowd are because of their failed policies. And I think there was a shame component to it as well. But it was a disgrace. Kudos to the president for keeping his cool, his calm. It was an amazing speech. I enjoyed it, as did most of the country.
Well, it's incredible that people could refuse to show support for things like fighting childhood cancer, capturing terrorists, protecting women and girls in sports, and lowering taxes. President Trump highlighted some of the government waste that Elon Musk and the Doge department have discovered as well. Watch.
We have already identified $22 billion from HHS to provide free housing and cars for illegal aliens. $45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is.
A Michigan Senator Elisa Slotkin blasting Doge during her response after the president's remarks. Watch.
Is there anyone in America who is comfortable with him and his gang of 20-year-olds using their own computer servers to poke through your tax returns, your health information, and your bank accounts? No oversight, no protections against cyber attack. no guardrails on what they do with your private data.
Florida
Think
Senator.
about how idiotic. Now, she's from Wyandotte, Michigan, all right? I was born and raised in Michigan, so I know a lot about Michigan and how the Democratic Party fucked up the automotive industry. But guess what? Where's the outcry with the NSA and the overreach of the surveillance and scooping up citizens' data illegally and lying to Congress about it? I trust Elon 1 billion times more than I trust the NSA.
And House Freedom Caucus Chairman Andy Harris urging Republican leadership to reject Democrat efforts to restrict DOGE in the upcoming government funding deal. Elon Musk will take questions from House Republicans tonight while President Trump meets with the House Freedom Caucus to discuss government funding. Congressman, what are you expecting from all of this?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very busy day. I'll be with the president later at the White House. But again, some of the spending that the president pointed out was an absolute waste and a disgrace, just like the Democratic Party. And they didn't have an answer for that. And so what do? They jeer, they hold up signs. That's not representative of offering solutions to the American people. We're barreling towards $37 trillion in debt. That's not sustainable. We've got to be proactive and cut waste, and that's what the president is doing.
And Luke Ball is here this morning with us. Luke, jump in here.
Hey, Congressman, the historic position of the House Freedom Caucus has been that stopgaps and a lot of continuing resolutions are not good for the country. They have been staunchly opposed to these in the past, but it seems as if the House Freedom Caucus is open to a continuing resolution to get Trump's priorities across the line and a lot of the DOGE efforts across the line. Does this signal a shift in mentality for the caucus, or is this something unique under the Trump administration?
Yeah, I think it's unique under the Trump administration. You have a true leader in the White House. We have a plan that's going to get us and help correct course. It's a big ship. It turns slowly when you talk about the economy. But look, I think we'll have a deal that comes together. I'm on the board of the House Freedom Caucus, and we're working very proactively with the president, with Elon. I talk to both of them on a fairly regular basis. And so as we move forward, I think you're going to see a lot of unity on, again, coming together and finding solutions to fix the problems of the failed Biden policies.
And where do you see the offsets in terms of things to cut?
Well, I mean, that's a long list. As a fiscal hawk in the House, I would slash and burn lots of agencies and departments. Let's start with the Department of Education. But again, we have to build a consensus. That takes time. I know the clock is ticking, but we'll get there.
President Trump also revealed that Ukraine's President Zelensky sent him a letter to restart the talks after their fiery and smackdown in the Oval Office last week. Zelensky calling that meeting regrettable on X, but says he's ready for a peace deal now and will come to the negotiating table as soon as possible. Here's the president last night on that.
The United States has sent hundreds of billions of dollars to support Ukraine's defense with no security, with do you want to keep it going for another 5 years? Meanwhile, Europe has sadly spent more money buying Russian oil and gas than they have spent on defending Ukraine by far.
Congressman, what are you expecting on the Ukraine front and this minerals deal as well?
Yeah, I think we're going to come to a conclusion on the minerals deal. And quite frankly, I think you're going to see an expectation that Europe does more to protect its own homeland as we have more activity in the Pacific. And so we can't be the world's police all the time. And this is an opportunity for Europe to do its part. The United States of America has done more than its fair share in regards to Ukraine. I've voted against the funding for Ukraine. I think we should be securing our border, taking care of our kids and our education system. Not Ukraine. That being said, the president is committing to finding peace in the region. I think you see Putin has signaled that he wants peace. And then look, it's a meat grinder for the Ukrainians. It's time for the violence to end. I don't know that Zelensky, it would be interesting to see how much longer he remains in charge. I think if elections were held today, that he would be removed from office. That being said, the president has worked diligently on the minerals deal. And the meeting in the White House with Zelensky, it was an absolute just embarrassment for his country, for himself. But he came in like a petulant child, and Trump put him in his place.
All right, we will leave it there, Congressman. It's good to see you this morning, sir. Thank you. Any Ogles on Capitol Hill.
All right. Let's take a look at another video here.
Let's talk Doge.
All right, this is Cash Jordan. Armed thugs raid NYC subway train as police watch. Welcome to New York.
It was a very different scenario this afternoon. Still not clear what happened, but that man was rushed to Bellevue Hospital where he's in state.
So at first, this sounds like another sad story of a random person's commute getting rerouted to the ER. However, over the last week, a string of subway incidents have resulted in numerous people harmed by armed assailants. Something the city's nonstop 24/7 police presence down here appears powerless to prevent. But despite these recent reports, our leaders continue to tell us to close our eyes, hold our noses, and ride the subway because all of the problems down here, they're not real. They're in our heads.
More police officers are on our city's subway platforms now than there were just a month ago, between the additional officers recently deployed to stations and to trains overnight. So the question that many New Yorkers want to know now, are these efforts working?
It was not the police fault, but no, they can't do their job and I don't feel safe. I'm on survival mode every time I'm here. This is a new world out here.
It's crazy. There's too much going on with people with issues, with mental problems and all of that. So I just trust God and keep moving.
The main thing is for everybody to feel safe on the subway, and that is not the case right now.
The average New Yorker would believe that they're living in a city that is out of control.
How would you push someone into a drain?
That's Marquise Borzelis in custody. Borzelis, who is 26 years old and homeless, has had past run-ins with the law.
And this is a 6-month plan, and Governor Kathy Hochul says she eventually wants to get up to 700 police officers underground. But communities like the Upper West Side say they don't know if they'll get their officers back once this is all done.
So a 5-person gang of thieves was caught evading arrest by entering the subway through an emergency gate and riding it for free. And what none of our leaders want to acknowledge is that every week it seems like they've got some new plan to save the subway. And then every week that plan falls flat on its face, which is to be expected in a subway system run by people who think fearful riders are the ones suffering psychosis, not the people they sadly neglect who are living in the subway with documented mental health problems. With one subway assailant telling police he heard voices in his head instructing him to go after a random stranger. Which means our leaders are right. Crime is in people's heads, all right. The heads of the criminals who for some reason keep getting released after they get arrested and returning back to the subway to just do the same thing all over again. And although manufactured statistics do
Guess
show...
what? New York is run by Democrats. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support my work. By getting the products that I offer, many of the products and the way I stack these things give you dual purpose. Let me give you an example of a dual purpose product. These deodorants are for males and females. They'll help you to detoxify your body as you use it as a deodorant every day. You can get it in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree, or in citrus. All right? So get these bars. They're made from essential oils from the Himalayas. Very high quality deodorant that will help to detoxify your body. These essential oils are all natural. No aluminum in this, nor baking soda. Take this, use this every day, all right, and support your health and wellness. Now, it's very important to get a few bars for your household, but not just this. By taking this and detoxifying your body, you can stack with some of the other things that I have that will help to detoxify your body. And you're going to notice that your endocrine system and your immune system and all these things are going to be performing better because you're getting rid of toxins. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get these deodorants. They're dual purpose. They're for males and females. Very high quality. They're made from Rainbow Herbals. All right? I've partnered up with Rainbow Herbals, and we're trying to get these items in your hand so you are healthy. If you listen, you'll get healthy. You don't listen, you don't get healthy. It's that simple. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5, and you'll get $5 off of any order. Get a few items. Help with your health and wellness. and slow down the aging process and boost up your immune system. It's a great way. You just listen to me. I'll instruct you exactly what you need to do. It's very simple. Please go to my store, law-studio-reykjavik.com. All right, let's go back to Cash Jordan, because guess what? The lawlessness that's going on in New York City is heavily due to policies from the Democratic Party.
For all subway crime being down, there are a few crimes in particular New Yorkers really care about, and those just so happen to be a situation that has average, everyday people looking over their shoulders and watching their backs no matter what time of day it is. Which brings us to the real reason why crime down here just seems to get worse no matter what the city does. They're doing the wrong thing, obviously. Because here we are trying to stop a crime wave in a place that's decriminalized things like robbery and assault. And what do you know, both of those are up down here in the subway, and there's not a thing our police, who have the toughest job in the world, can do about it. Because after they take down a dangerous criminal, that person is declared to have committed a misdemeanor and released. But as you're about to see, the subway is run by people who don't think any of this is a problem, which is why the subway cars themselves are now being stolen by criminals. So out of all the out-of-control nonsense going on down here, people being targeted, riders having to look over their shoulders, basically being in fear all the time when they're just trying to get to work, there's another problem underpinning all of this, which is shocking because you'd think the subway infrastructure itself, like the trains, which are critical to the operation of New York, would be safe, but they're not.
At one point, the train was moving at more than 30 miles an hour. One of the boys posted this video on social media, hurtling beneath the streets of Sunset Park. Aaron Morrison is a train operator, and he's outraged.
The onus is on the MTA to stop this because this is well-known. It's a well-known issue. We have to intercede.
Did you hear that? It's a well-known issue that nothing down here is safe from criminals. That's ridiculous. Not the riders, not the police who are supposed to protect the riders, and apparently not even the train cars themselves, which are now being taken on joyrides by pranksters. Which brings up some very big, very uncomfortable questions. First of all, how in the world are TikToking, fame-seeking teenagers smart enough to breach security protocols and access a subway train to begin with? And second, how did they get away with it long enough to drive the train at over 30 miles an hour throughout the system? You know, to a normal person who locks their house when they leave in the morning, the only way something like this can happen is if nobody cares about this place. And let's be real, does it look like anybody cares about this place? No, but someone should, because this rotting, unsafe disaster of a transit system costs $20 billion a year to operate, and just so happens to be falling apart faster than a Soviet-era battleship. This place looks like it gets $0 a year to operate, but the fact that it sucks up so much money and somehow none of that money goes anywhere into the actual system people use makes absolutely no sense. And as you're about to see, it definitely doesn't go into the security apparatuses that are supposed to keep the trains themselves safe.
Morrison says the doors are routinely locked, but the key is standard and works on every subway train in the transit system. They're either stolen or purchased on the black market. The teams managed.
So the entire system, every single train is on the same master key, and people are getting it somehow. But a master key itself isn't the issue. The real issue is that people are somehow getting by all the security down here into areas of the subway that they shouldn't. And that should be impossible. We've got an occupying force of 1,000 National Guard troops down here, as well as hundreds of police officers. But somehow nobody's watching the trains? What kind of world is this that we're living in? What if someone were to have tampered with the train's brakes or its steering or power mechanisms? That could have been very dangerous. And who in the world was watching these expensive security cameras that were installed everywhere recently?
MTA officials cannot explain the obvious lapse in security.
We are having conversations internally to review safety protocols, to review, looking at the locks and to, ensure that these spaces remain secured and protected.
Wow, so it gets even better. The people running the subway have no idea how a a train could have been hijacked. They're clueless, which is why they're now investigating themselves. But one thing's for sure, we've now reached a new level of incompetence down here, which is why all of us are in danger. Look at this. On Amazon, you can get a motion detector for $30, and you can get an alert when somebody accesses an unauthorized part of your property. Yet here, we must not have stuff like that. This entire place is on the honor system, apparently. And the ridiculous thing about this is it doesn't matter who's running this subway system. There is no excuse for allowing such high-value, expensive infrastructure to be accessed by random criminals. But if teenagers are able to steal subway cars whenever they want, what if a real criminal wants to get their hands on a subway car, like a terrorist? We know there are people like that roaming our country looking for ways to cause destruction, and now they've got a new way to do it. On top of that, we don't even know who's down here. This place is so unsecured and unmonitored that literally anything could be going on at any moment, and nobody will know until it's too late. That's why this place is dangerous. That's why it's so unsafe, and no amount of police or National Guard troops is going to put a stop to that. If the people in charge down here won't lock the door to their house, so to speak.
Right, imagine for a moment if they had driven through a stop signal or somehow got switched onto the wrong tracks. The consequences, potential consequences, are frightening to contemplate. As you saw in that video, there's several other suspects. Police are working.
So this is no longer a story about teenagers pulling some prank in the subway. It's actually a story about how vulnerable the subway is to some very terrible future occurrence, because it's completely unsecure, even though it costs billions. And then the news tells us that in spite of all the cameras down here, multiple people are still on the loose and have not been apprehended, which is especially troubling when you add that to all of the other failed security initiatives that have taken place down here over the last year. First, it was the National Guard deployments, then it was the increased police presence, and now we're going through an era where the plan is to take officers out of the stations and platforms and have them ride the trains. I guess they're just not riding the trains as the trains are being stolen, which reveals that you can dump all the security you want down here. If the place itself is run by people who don't take care of it, don't care about it, you're just going to get more incidents. And as this is happening, our entire city is being made less safe because all the police that are down here now, they came from somewhere else, and that place is now in danger. The stories we're covering today reveal that our world is a minefield of problems any of us could walk into without even realizing it. Which is why I'm thrilled to tell you about today's video sponsor, Incogni, who protects you from the 3 biggest threats on the internet: spam, scammers, one's voice, this. The description to get 60% off Incogni's annual plan. So here we are above ground, directly above the subway terminal we were just at, which is full of police and National Guard troops. And as you look around, you can tell that, yes, things here are not perfect. Yes, New York is an old city, but because police have been taken away from the streets and put below the streets, our streets are now less safe.
It's been over 1 week since NYPD officers were deployed to patrol all overnight subway trains. The move by Governor Kathy Hochul is meant to reduce subway crime, but reassigning hundreds of police officers has taken them away from local precincts.
It's extreme. This is why our city's crime problems will not go away. All of the police that are now underground looking for criminals, they used to be up here looking for them, and it's the same criminals. They're just evading police by going wherever the police aren't. And if you want to stop a crime wave, you're going to need police both above ground and below ground at the exact same time. Yet here we are choosing between one or the other, and here's where that's led us. You've got a robbery crew that was stealing purses in the Upper East Side, and these guys escaped getting on the train. Of course, had they committed that robbery on the train in front of police, they could have been arrested, but no, they did it up here on the street where there weren't any police. And that's a problem because as the weather here warms up, the criminals who are hiding underground will re-emerge. And when they come back, they'll find neighborhoods totally devoid of any law enforcement presence. And while our criminals figure that out and exploit this massive hole in public safety, crime is going to drop underground because the criminals left. They're up here now, and our leaders are going to be able to say, see, putting all those police down there getting tough on crime It worked, and we were able to do it without sending anybody to jail. But as they take their victory lap, a new crime wave will emerge, seemingly out of nowhere, preying upon our local businesses and residents as they walk down the street. And you know what we're then going to be told? Our leaders, they're going to come along and they're going to say, well, there's a new crime wave over here, but we've just proven that we were able to stop crime in the subway, which means we're going to stop it on the streets, when in reality they're just shifting around where the criminals decide to go.
The Upper West Side Coalition of Block Associations and Community Groups was told on Monday that they'd be losing 15 newly assigned officers. In November, New York City Council member Gail Brewer sent a letter to NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch regarding a rise in crime and requested.
So look at that. There was rising crime in the Upper West Side, the neighborhood north of the one we're in right now, and they got extra police to deal with it. But then crime kicked off in the subways, and those police, they were taken off the streets and sent below ground. They don't even know if those cops are ever coming back, and the residents are worried. And they should be. It's the same criminals preying upon people on the streets and below ground. But since we won't send them to jail, they just keep doing their thing. And these purse snatchers, they've gone after 3 people so far in a residential neighborhood. There have been no arrests, which can only mean these hooligans are comfortably inside an apartment somewhere plotting what their next move will be and where it's going to be. And they're probably not the only criminals in town who've realized the massive opportunity waiting for them above ground when the police are beneath it. And this is public safety 101. If you pull cops out of your neighborhoods are going to get more dangerous. Everybody knows that. And the sad thing about that is our leaders, they probably know that this is the case. Yet they didn't write our laws that decriminalize crime, so they've got to act like everything's fine. This is what people voted for, after all. Even though we've got proof that after police were deployed to stop a crime wave in Central Park last summer, that crime shot up in every neighborhood the police were taken from. But not enough police. That's only part of the reason why our neighborhoods are so dangerous. The real reason is because even with more police, criminals roaming our streets, making them more dangerous, will never get sent to jail. They'll never be taken off the streets. And look at this. We have a 146% spike in felony assaults by repeat offenders. That's why we're seeing so much crime on our subways, even though more and more police and troops just get sent down there. They can't stop the crime by arresting people. Those arrests have to be backed up by a justice system that is going to levy consequences against those who have harming society as their goal every single day they get up in the morning. But time is money, and police can and do waste the time of criminals by putting them in the back of police cars before they are eventually released after whatever they did is declared to be a misdemeanor, which I guess is the best form of justice New York City residents can hope to get. And now some are very afraid that since their neighborhoods don't have any more cops, they're going to stop getting the little bit of law enforcement that they had access to.
In Queens, the Astoria Post reports that the 114th precinct lost 16 officers to the overnight subway patrol. We need enough police officers to cover all of the city's public safety needs consistently for the long term.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. We're going to have to hire more police, but we're also going to need to write some new laws that start putting people in jail and keeping them there when they do things that are wrong. I mean, how hard is that to understand? How come nobody here is advocating for that to happen? Or is it that our city council is still in favor of these criminal reforms for some reason, even though they're the reason we still have active criminal populations here that just won't go away? And you know we're at an impasse where our mayor and our governor have both said that the laws here need to change, but they're not for some reason. Should people go to jail when they do something that's wrong, or is that a concept that is archaic and wrong for some reason? How would you stop crime in the New York City subway, and is it possible to stop crime down there while letting it reign free up here? That's the big question. Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you.
Well, thank you for asking, Cash Jordan. Dr. Paul Cottrell thinks that there is no solution. You might as well just nuke New York City. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Goodnight Formula, because the only way to get out of this hell is just to go to sleep. So please, all kidding aside, Goodnight Formula has tryptophan, melatonin, GABA, and passion flower, and some other ingredients. Go to my store, look at the label, take a look at it carefully, but it's a great supplement to take every day to get into 3 cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep. You need 3 cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep regularly, every night, preferably, to detoxify your central nervous system, to be well rested in the morning, and to consolidate memory. If you are sleep deprived chronically, you are increasing your chances of early onset of dementia. because you're building up toxins and you're not consolidating memory. Part of the holistic approach to anti-aging and boosting up your immune system is proper sleep. Too much sleep is bad. Not enough sleep, bad. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the Good Night Formula, take it every day, and get the proper sleep that you need to consolidate memory, detoxify your central nervous system, and to be well rested in the morning when you wake up. Use discount 5 and get $5 off. And lastly, before we go to live now, they're talking about sanctuary cities, and they're going to blast. It looks like they're blasting the mayor from Boston. So we're going to rewind it because we missed some parts to it. Please go to my store and get the lozenges and the drops that I have. I have very high quality structural nanosilver lozenges and drops. They're great to mitigate an irritant during the allergy season or during the cold season. So get a few bags for your household, and just be prepared. Make sure you have some at work, have some at home. Once you have that irritation in your throat, take these right away. Now, the lozenges are larger. You can get 21 in each bag. You can get it in Manuka honey or in elderberry zinc. Very high quality lozenges. Again, structural nanosilver. And I also have drops, which are smaller than the lozenges. You get 100 in each of the bags. And you can get it in cherry, in honey and lemon, and also in blueberry. So get a few bags for your household and for work. You never know when this is going to happen, when you start having that irritation. Take them right away and mitigate the problem. Very important. Please go to my store, use discount 5, all caps, discount, and then the number 5, and you will get $5 off any order. But these are high quality lozenges and drops. Take them when you need them. Trust me on this. All right, now what I want to do is go to live now and rewind what was going on there. So I'll be right back.
Child, Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, I got the note that the baby's okay for now, so I'll continue. But thank you. I will. I believe from my husband that the baby's okay, and
okay, well,
and the arrangement, if it's okay, was that everyone would take a break, so I wouldn't have to go into a back room by myself to nurse when it's time. Thank you.
Chairman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I find the Republican position in this hearing quite ironic because the Republican.
All right, so they've been doing this hearing, and I want to focus on the mayor from Boston.
And military veterans. One school district sent a letter to parents warning that ICE may board school buses and demand country.
Will dedicate a partnership, friendship, and leadership. Thank you for
Okay, this is Mary Adams. Let's play it.
Has been this officer for currently wrap up. I now recognize Mayor Adams for his opening statement.
Good morning, Chairman Alcoma, Ranking Member Connolly, and members of the committee. As mayor of New York City and a former police officer for 22 years, keeping New Yorkers safe is my top priority, and it has been our administration's North Star. When I entered this role, my job was to help our city recover from the negative effects of COVID. Most importantly, to bring down crime. As a result, overall crime was down across New York City last year, and we have now had 3 straight months of double-digit declines in major crimes. I'm here today to testify on how New York City can continue to reduce crime, even as a sanctuary city. To be clear, a sanctuary city classification does not mean our city will ever be a safe haven for violent criminals. It also does not give New York City the authority to violate federal immigration laws. To the contrary, New York City will always comply with city, state, and federal laws as it does now. Law-abiding immigrants in New York have an important role. Immigrant New Yorkers, including those who are undocumented, pay billions of dollars in taxes and contribute billions more in spending power to our economy. Immigrants also play a vital role in the functioning of the city. This was on full display during the COVID-19 pandemic. The various immigrant residents of our city worked to keep the city moving, while many other New Yorkers were able to shelter in place and work remotely. Hospitals, the food industry, and many other businesses were able to function because of the commitment of our immigrant population. As mayor, I do not control who enters or remains in our country, but I do have to manage the population that is within our city. In order to carry out this function without having long-term negative ramification, I must create an atmosphere that allows every law-abiding resident, documented or not, to access vital services without fear of being turned over to federal authorities. I cannot have a city where parents are afraid to send their children to school or where children are sleeping on the streets, creating the potential for child exploitation and sex trafficking. If an undocumented person refuses to seek medical care until they have a medical emergency, our city's healthcare system will be strained. And if an undocumented individual witnesses a crime but is afraid to call 911 for fear of being turned over to federal authorities, criminals will roam free. And it reminds me of my early days as a police officer. I have seen firsthand the damage that can be done when someone is too afraid to seek out the police. Early in my career, I responded to a man who was calling out for help. We caught the suspect, but when it came to filling out the police report, the individual, an undocumented man from China, said he did not want to file a report and put a target on his back with federal immigration authorities. Approximately 4 decades later, our country still is in desperate need of comprehensive immigration reform. And as a result, New York City was hit with the largest humanitarian crisis in our city's history over the last 3 years. Federal law did not allow me to stop buses from entering New York City. State law required me to provide all in our city with housing and meals and to educate children. City law makes it unlawful to collaborate with ICE for civil enforcement. We complied with all of these legal requirements and still managed the humanitarian crisis with the care and compassion, while at the same time bringing down crime, recovering our economy, and preventing any child from being forced to sleep on the streets. Comprehensive immigration reform is long overdue. While the solution is not within my control as a mayor, I am committed to working with federal officials to go after violent gangs and those who harm residents of our city. This is why we have over 330 NYPD officers assigned to different federal joint task forces, over 70 of which are assigned to task forces with Homeland Security investigation, the criminal investigation arm of ICE. Those task forces focus on many different important priorities, including going after violent gangs and child exploitation. I look forward to sharing New York City collaborations that we do daily with our city, state, and federal partners to keep New York City to continue to be the safest big city in America. Thank you.
Thank you. I now recognize Denver Mayor Johnson for his opening statement.
Now, why not?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for inviting me to testify today. This committee convened this hearing on the critical topic of immigration. I want to tell you Denver's story. When I became mayor 20 months ago, Denver was already receiving buses of immigrants with little to no notice or coordination. At one point, we were receiving 10 to 11 buses a day.
He's the dream of my father had when he came from Salis, Mississippi during the second migration. With summer jobs increasing.
I don't really care. Okay, this is the mayor from
Ranking
Boston.
Member Connolly and
for her opening statement.
Thank you. Chairman Comer, Ranking Member Connolly, and members of the committee, my name is Michelle Wu. I am the daughter of immigrants, and since November of 2021, I have had the honor of serving as mayor of Boston. I'm proud to be here on behalf of our city, the police officers, first responders, city workers, the faith leaders, teachers, parents, and neighbors who partner every day to make Boston the safest major city in the nation. And I'm proud every day to work alongside the greatest police commissioner in the nation, Commissioner Michael Cox. Every year since I took office, we've set a new record low for gun violence in Boston. Last year, Boston saw the fewest homicides on record in the last 70 years.
I'm telling you, crime is up in New York. Crime is up in Boston. I'm not sure if they're playing with the numbers and they're just not reporting the incidences or what. But both Boston and New York are shitholes.
Those are the facts. And behind these record lows are historic highs. The most ever young people working paid summer jobs. The most pre-K seats at no cost to families. The most affordable housing built in a generation. We have invested in the kinds of opportunities that cultivate prosperity and eradicate crime. And the laws on our books promote the kind of community trust that keeps all of us safe. In Boston, our police department resources and taxpayer dollars go towards preventing and solving crimes. And when it comes to criminal matters,
then why was there an incident at Kindell Station just a few days ago? Why is there homeless all over the place at Harvard Square? Huh? Who? She also went to Harvard, so she must have an answer.
Police partner every day with state and federal law enforcement. But Massachusetts state law and the Boston Trust Act make clear that immigration is federal law enforcement's responsibility. We are the safest major city in the country because our gun laws are the strongest in the nation, because our officers have built relationships over decades, and because all of our residents can trust that when they call 911 in the event of an emergency or to report a crime, help will come.
She's a communist. Trust me. She's a serious socialist.
This federal administration's approach is undermining that trust. In the past month, I've met with residents and faith leaders in community centers and places of worship, asking my constituents what they want Congress to know. And what I heard over and over again was fear and frustration. I spoke with pastors whose pews are half empty on Sundays, doctors whose patients are missing appointments, teachers whose students aren't coming to class, neighbors afraid to report crimes in their communities, and victims of violence who won't call the police. This federal administration is making hardworking, tax-paying, God-fearing residents afraid to live their lives. A city that's scared is not a city that's safe. A land ruled by fear is not.
When you have a bunch of crusties all over the city, sleeping right by the different storefronts, and she's saying that she has a vibrant community because she is a sanctuary city, they're here illegally. They broke the law. It's really simple.
Land of the free. Next month, Boston will celebrate 250 years of our nation's freedom. And in every one of those years, Boston has welcomed the world to our shores. From the English immigrants fleeing religious persecution, to the Irish forced out by famine, to the families from Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Cabo Verde, Vietnam, and so many more who call Boston home today. We are the safest major city in the nation.
Intellectuals, if you would like to call me an intellectual. If you don't, that's fine too. But intellectuals that are pro-God, country, and family. And it is about the idea of less government is better government. and that self-determination is the way forward for American society, we need to push back against people like her. Because she's promoting extreme socialism, tiptoeing right into communism. She's dangerous. And then to make it make matters worse, she's part of the Harvard community.
The greatest colleges and universities, the most advanced innovators, and the 2024 world champion Boston Celtics. We are the cradle of democracy and the city of champions. We are all of these things.
And I was born and raised in Detroit, where we manufactured the tanks, the bombers, the fighters that won World War II.
Not in spite of our immigrants, but because of them. 1 in 7 signers of the Declaration of Independence were immigrants. On the last 4 Red Sox rosters to win a World Series, 1 in 5 were immigrants. Of all the faculty at Boston University to have earned a Nobel Prize, all but 1 were immigrants. Today, 1 in 4 Boston residents were born somewhere else.
But were they legal? Did they come here legally? The issue here, woo, is legal.
Have jobs, many have kids. All of them chose this country as their home because, like my mom and dad, they believe that here, where you've been doesn't limit where you're going. The strength of your character has nothing to do with the color of your passport. And
that's right. The strength of your character has nothing to do with where you were born. But the strength of your character is very important. And if you're doing things that are wrong, and you know they're wrong, how can you be put into the category that you're good? See, missing the big picture. Maybe we just need a little bit of Midwest common sense in the intelligentsia of the East Coast.
Matters more than where you were born. That wherever you're from, if you pitch in, look out for your neighbors, and cheer for the home team, you can build a better future here for the people you love. So to every one of my neighbors back in Boston.
As long as you're here legally.
Know this. You belong here. This is your home. Boston es tu hogar.
Shit.
Boston, c'est la caillou. 这是你的家. This is our city. We are the safest major city in the nation because we are safe for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, and I recognize Mr. Beer for his opening statement.
That was a load of horse shit from a Harvard grad. All right, let's get to, all right, now I want to get past his statement. Okay. All right. Now, Comer is starting to ask questions.
The most criminal illegals, and I want to publicly thank you for that. But my question to you, sir, is New York City a sanctuary city?
Based on our classification, yes.
Okay. Last year in a Boston suburb, an illegal alien raped and impregnated his 14-year-old daughter while living in a shelter for illegal aliens. Mayor Wu, under Boston law, would you turn this criminal over to ICE on a detainer?
Whenever there's a criminal warrant, Boston police enforce that and hold people accountable.
So would you turn that criminal over to ICE?
This happened outside the city of Boston, but I can tell you in the city, whenever someone commits a crime, whenever there's a criminal warrant, we hold them accountable. If ICE deems that they are dangerous enough to hold obtain a criminal warrant, and the Boston Police will enforce it.
Will you turn that criminal over to ICE?
We follow the laws,
I
and
take
we
that
make
as a no.
sure that everyone.
In Chicago, an illegal alien who is.
Now, it's important to know that she went to Harvard College and Harvard Law School. So she knows how to tiptoe around. Like a good little socialist.
And who was brought into custody for his potential involvement in a murder. He was released when Cook County declined to press charges. This illegal alien is also facing charges for kidnapping and sexually assaulting his former girlfriend last year. Now he's on the streets. Mayor Johnson, under Chicago law, would you turn this criminal over to ICE on a detainer?
Our local law enforcement works hard every day to get criminals off the streets of Chicago.
Would you turn that criminal
See,
over
this
to
is
ICE?
exactly the same problem that Claudine Gay had and the other presidents from the other universities like UPenn and MIT. They were asked a simple question and they were tiptoeing with legalese. And it will blow up in their face. Because all it takes is one major incident in these cities where a family is killed or a police officer is killed because of an illegal alien. And their career is done. It's the same. They're making the same mistake.
Problem. That's one of the topics of this conversation. That's one of the problems we've heard from Tom Homan and from the Homeland Security is that in your cities, when someone's apprehended for a crime, and ICE is now with this new federal policy wanting to come in and deport the criminal alien, that you will not cooperate with ICE. Will you turn that criminal over to ICE?
And we do not harbor criminals. Our local police department works hard every single day to ensure that the city of Chicago is.
Yes or no? Will you turn the criminal over to ICE?
With a criminal warrant from the federal government, our local law enforcement repeatedly collaborates with federal agents.
So you're saying publicly today, you will turn that alien over to ICE in a safe place like a jail and not turn him out on the street and say, here you go, ICE, good luck. You will turn that criminal over to ICE.
With a criminal warrant, as we have done for 40 years.
Should that criminal be turned over to ICE?
With a criminal warrant, they are subject to the federal laws, and that includes deportation.
My time has expired, but again, the point that we got to iron out today is that we have to have cooperation. It is federal law to turn over those illegal criminals to ICE. And we've heard reports, and many of you have said publicly, that you are going to obstruct that. That is against the law, and we're going to hear more about that today. Now, I recognize the ranking member, Conley, for his 5 minutes.
Thank you. Mayor Wu, I quoted Tom Homan, the so-called border czar, saying that he wanted to bring hell. He was bringing hell to the city of Boston. What did you understand him to mean by that?
Let's talk about Tom Homan.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Shame on him.
Shame on
for
him.
lying about my city, for having the nerve to insult our police commissioner who has overseen the safest Boston's been in anyone's lifetime. Bring him here under oath and let's ask him some questions. I am here to make sure that the city of Boston is safe. Others may want to bring hell. We are here to bring peace to cities everywhere.
Mayor Johnston of Denver, what would your reaction be if Tom Homan wants to bring hell to your city, Denver?
We think that we have folks in Denver who are working hard, playing by the rules, paying taxes. There is no one that is seeking hell to come to Denver. What people are looking for is opportunity and hope.
And for the record, he can do whatever he wants to do, I guess. But the fact of the matter is you absorbed on a per capita basis the largest immigration a year or two ago. And you indicated that your crime rate actually fell. It didn't increase. Is that correct?
That is correct. Crime is down in Denver. We have homicides down 17%, Violent shootings are down 24%.
And in Boston, I'm sorry, I've got limited time. Mayor Wu, same thing in Boston.
It's not about the trajectory. Is it going up or down? The thing is incidences are happening. It's independent if it's going up or down. And they can play around with actually what is reported.
The crime rate has been falling, correct?
So what?
We had
Is the
24
crime
homicides.
rate there? It's not about rate of change. It's number of incidences. Forget about rate of change. If there's just one incident of an illegal alien doing a crime, that's a problem. Not the trajectory. Oh, we had 10 last month and it's now down to 5. So we have 50% reduction. No. What is the absolute number?
Last year, 24 too many, but that represented a
24.
tremendous reduction, one of the biggest drops anywhere in the country.
Yeah, 24 is not.
So
it's too much.
The correlation between
It's
immigration
24
and
too much.
crime is false, as you point out, Mr. Beer. Perhaps you can elaborate that. I find it ironic that you characterized correctly, in my view, President Trump and Tom Homan's approach to immigration as lawless when they're invoking law and order and crime as the rationale for their lawlessness. Could you expand on the lawlessness and the irony of the fact that, as you point out in your testimony, the crime rate among immigrants is half that of the native population?
That's right. I have a table in my written testimony. You can look at top 20 cities for immigration court filings over the last 4 years.
The problem is that they're here illegally. And many of them, whatever the percentage is, but the percentage is too high, are causing additional crime. That's the problem. It's not about the trajectory, and it's not about
of those
comps.
cities saw
It's not about
decline in
comparing.
homicide rate. If you look at all of the major cities, there's a negative correlation between increasing numbers of immigrants and the homicide rate. So that means more immigrants, lower homicide rates. That holds true across the United States. So I think the correlation that's trying to be made is more immigrants, more illegal immigrants, more chaos, more crime. That does not hold. What we do see under this administration is an increasing willingness to ignore the laws. He has, as I mentioned, signed an executive order that says he can ignore due process rights for people who are accused of being in the country illegally. This is an incredibly dangerous assertion of authority and should be investigated by Congress.
And is it a reasonable proposition for a local leader? I know I was chairman of my county, which is like being mayor of a large county. And, we focused on local law enforcement. We tried out the feds when we could. We were cooperative where we could be. But our job was local law enforcement. And there is a clash when ICE behaves this way. And I
want to skip forward here.
I'd like to seek unanimous consent to enter into the record thousands of DHS agents shift to deportation instead of drugs, weapons, and human trafficking. That is February 2025 USA Today.
Without objection, so ordered.
Parents pull kids from childcare as immigration fears hit U.S. youngest.
Without objection, so ordered. Check.
Finally, an 11-year-old girl in Texas died by suicide after she was bullied about her family's immigration status, her mother says.
Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes Dr. Gosar from Arizona.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor Wu, I'll be showing up at your house tomorrow with my bags at 5 o'clock. Leave your doors unlocked, please. What are you making for dinner? Because I expect a warm meal and a balanced diet. Now, I'm going to need a car, and please leave me some cash because I'm going to need to go to my doctor's appointment on Friday. That would be to Mr. Mayor Johnson. Now, I don't want to sleep on the couch, so put me up at a luxury hotel. Little Mayor Johnson. Obviously, you wouldn't like this because you don't know me, right? You know nothing about me. You might not like that. Sanctuary cities offer this kind of hope, this false hope, to illegal aliens by saying that very thing. Stay with me. We don't tell anybody that you break our laws. Now, thank you. You've made the United States complicit in one of the largest purveyors of human trafficking in the world. Thank you. You're disgracing the legal immigration system that came here, and the immigrants that came here the right way, through Ellis Island at the time, now through our going through our process. And I want to talk about that process because I've always been told, and it's never been really challenged, is that good process builds good policy, builds good politics. I think that works really, really good because you can always fall back to the process. If the process isn't good, you always get good process. Now you heard the word establishing trust, okay? How can you establish trust at the very beginning when you have a false narrative here? You're defending folks who have broken the law. The definition I've always looked at is trust is a series of promises kept. What kind of trust are you supporting here? What is the trust of an illegal alien? It's a falsehood. It's false trust. Welcome, we're bringing you in. It's disorganized process. Now, let me ask you a question. Mayor Adams, did you support SB 1070?
I'm sorry?
Did you support the Arizona law called SB 1070?
I'm not familiar with it, sir.
Let me explain, okay?
Mm-hmm.
SB 1070 challenged the federal government on its supremacy clause. Because we, in Arizona, wanted, the government wasn't doing anything, so we thought, we'll do this. We can't allow this to break laws. The Supreme Court ruled that struck it down. Now, it seems contraindicating here that you would have supported SB 1070, right, Mayor Adams? Based on the premise that you or would you violate the supremacy clause in regards to immigration?
Would I
violate the supremacy clause?
This is way over my head.
Okay.
That's, you know.
I mean, Mayor Johnson, would you have supported SB 1070, allowing Arizona to follow their own laws? Because that's what you're doing right here.
Thank you, Congressman. We currently follow all federal law, all state law, and all local law. So we do not have any supremacy clause challenges that we're pursuing or maintaining.
Okay. Well, it seems like you are, but Mr. Johnson, do you agree?
The city of Chicago complies with all laws.
Okay. Mayor Wu.
I'm not familiar with that law because I'm focused on the city of Boston, but we follow all state, city, and federal laws in Boston.
What happens when you get in conflict with them? Who do you support?
The Constitution, as I understand it, doesn't require cities or police officers or anyone to follow their laws in conflict, follow federal laws in conflict with local laws or state laws.
Okay, the Constitution says it is explicit that the federal government has jurisdiction and supremacy over all immigration laws, right? I mean, I've heard it a number of times from my colleagues over here. We're the ones who can define that. We're the ones that have it. We just heard we want a comprehensive immigration policy. How can you get a comprehensive immigration policy?
His argument, for the ones that aren't following, he's building a sophisticated argument here. And he picked her last because she is the lawyer, all right, from Harvard. All right. So his style of questioning, he went from the first person, Mayor Adams, who had the least amount of knowledge about law, all right, to going to who that had the most knowledge about law. Now, he's basically saying that Congress defines it, not the local municipality. Boom, checkmate.
Go. You're building on false premises and false tenets.
Respectfully, Congressman, you could pass bipartisan legislation, and that would be comprehensive immigration law. The false narrative is that immigrants in general are criminals, or immigrants in general cause all sorts of danger and harm. That is actually what's undermining safety.
Illegal immigrants, not all immigrants, because some immigrants are legally here and they're fine and they're law-abiding. There's no issue with that. It starts with the illegal alien. They broke the law. They're here wrongfully. They're already a criminal. Period. Now, there's a subset of them that are creating even more crimes, like theft or murder or child trafficking or whatever.
In our communities, if you wanted to make us safe, pass gun reforms. Stop cutting Medicaid. Stop cutting cancer research. Stop cutting funds for veterans. That is what will make our city safe.
This is the typical liberal bullshit line coming from a socialist. And you see his grin. It's like, you know what, Woo? You have a Mao Red Book right in your purse.
Thank you. I yield back. Chair recognizes Mr. Chris Mortek from Illinois.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mayor Johnson, there's been much talk about Chicago and its enforcement of laws to rid our communities of criminals, so I want to give you a chance to address some of these questions. First, Mayor Johnson, the city of Chicago operates under 4 sets of laws: federal, state, county, and of course, Chicago's own laws, right?
Okay, I'm gonna fast forward here. They're asking questions.
Mayor Wu, you were a great advocate of masks and looked at the science. Do you know if your city government actually ever used police resources to carry out the CDC or Transportation Department's mask mandate where they were fining $1,500 or referring for criminal prosecution?
I am not aware of any incidents of someone in Boston having been fined or prosecuted for any mask-related issues. We certainly prioritize public health and saving lives, and so our role as a city was to provide positive communication, outreach, make sure there were signs and different community organizations that could go and remind people to stay safe and do their best to take care of each other.
As much of an advocate as you were for masks, and I was an advocate for masks, would you have been hesitant to order your law enforcement, your local police, to say if someone was violating those mask mandates that we need to cooperate and turn them over to the Transportation Department for prosecution? Would that have given you some pause if the federal government were saying use your police departments to fine people and give us their records for criminal prosecution?
Yes, it would have.
And so I guess I'm trying to understand, if we set this precedent that we want cities to be enforcing every federal mandate, then what happens when there's a new Democratic president that comes and says, we want a mask mandate that the Republicans may not want? And when there are conservatives like Governor DeSantis or Governor Abbott saying we don't want our cities to enforce that? Do you see, Mayor Wu, any difference between a federal government asking you to enforce laws that ICE is doing versus a federal government asking you to enforce a mask mandate, or frankly, to enforce gun laws that may not be what your local city department is focused on?
It does seem that local authority is part of our democracy and part of our system of government.
Isn't the real issue here?
See, the issue here is they don't want to pay attention to federal law if they don't like it. But if they like the federal law, they'll follow it. So this is really a battle between city rights, state rights, and federal rights.
One of immigration, but of federalism? Isn't the question, I mean, everyone agrees that there needs to be, if there's someone who's convicted of a crime, that ICE has the right to.
Now remember what Comer said at the very beginning. If there was a criminal, an illegal alien, would you allow ICE to take over? Would they discharge this individual to ICE's possession? And they said, well, if you had a federal warrant. So are they following federal law or not? So this is a very sophisticated point that he's making here. You can't pick and choose. Are
Are
you going
we
to follow
going
federal
to
law or
have
not?
Local governments in this country be beholden to every new president's directives and armed for enforcing that. My view is that we ought to have local governments be able to use their police officers for their priorities. That, in its essence, is federalism, and it actually used to be the conservative Republican position.
Gentleman's time's expired. Chair recognizes Dr. Fox from North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor Johnson, in the last 4 years, how much has Chicago spent on care for illegal aliens?
Thank you for that question, Congresswoman. So since 2022, since the governor of Texas began
Just
shipping.
tell me a number. I don't need a speech. Just tell me a number.
So since 2022, since the governor of Texas was shipping individuals to cities across this country, the city's budget, roughly 1% of the city's budget over the course of 4 years.
Mayor Johnston, the same question, and I don't need a speech, just a number.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Thank you, Congresswoman. It's 79 million over the last 2.5 years.
Mayor Adams, same question. How much has New York spent to care for illegal aliens?
Approximately $6.9 billion went out of our taxpayers' funds.
Mayor Wu, same question. How much has Boston spent to care for illegal aliens in the last 4 years?
We do not ask about immigration status and giving city services and providing them access, so we do not have a number.
Taxpayers.
And they did that on purpose. They did it on purpose so they could fly underneath the radar. Everything's just copacetic. Everything's just fine.
The illegal aliens who've entered the United States, the Biden administration seemingly declared taxpayers and hardworking Americans collateral damage in the pursuit of open borders. Again, Mayor Johnson, are NGOs
before she asks her question, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the magnesium and zinc. This boosts up your immune system if you're not feeling well because of the cold season. Take a double dose. Take 1 dose in the morning. Take another dose in the evening. If you're feeling okay, take 1 dose a day. Make sure you drink it with filtered water because it's water soluble. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the magnesium and zinc. Boost up that immune system. If you're 40 years of age or older, you need to take Myotrol. Myotrol will help with gene expression to build muscle and to maintain muscle and to help with your mitochondria so you can maintain that muscle mass. When we get older, we start to atrophy. That's bad. So take Myotrol, increase your muscle, and do some weight training to have the best benefit from it. If you stack this Myotrol and do weight training and take the Gladiator Barley, that is a great way to build muscle. Now, if you're an athlete, take Myotrol, young or old, but if you take Myotrol, you're actually going to get strength gains quicker because it's going to help with the gene expression. So taking Myotrol with the Gladiator Barley, which is a high density protein, and doing your workout, you're going to gain strength in your sport. So this is for athletes and also for people that are not athletes that are 40 years of age or older, because you want to stop the atrophy of your musculature. So it's really important to maintain and build muscle as you get older. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the Myotrol, and this is a great way to slow down the aging process. Let's go back to the Wizard of Oz. Or the Wizard of Woo.
Aliens in Chicago.
In accordance with the Welcoming City Ordinance, our sister agencies or city departments, we do not seek the status of any individual that is seeking service.
Mayor Johnston, are NGOs providing services to illegal aliens in Denver?
Thank you, ma'am. When folks arrive on the streets without food or resources or
I
shelter,
know NGOs are supporting illegal immigrants in New York. I know that for a fact.
We provide food or shelter regardless of where folks arrive from.
Mayor Adams, same question.
Yes, in combination of city agencies and nonprofits, we responded to the migrant asylum seekers humanitarian crisis that hit our city.
And Mayor Wu, I assume you don't know their status, but do you know if there are NGOs are providing services to people arriving in your city without any kind of documentation?
There are community organizations, many of them in Boston, who seek to serve all of our Boston residents.
Congress must provide oversight and ensure accountability for taxpayer funds going to NGOs. Agents from Customs and Border Protection have been outspoken in opposition to allowing NGOs to assist illegal aliens in subversion of law and order. When asked if NGOs are working at cross purposes to the mission of Border Patrol agents, the chief of the National Border Patrol Council said, quote, "Most definitely, and they should not be allowed, but our government allows it," end quote. NGOs receiving taxpayer funding through grants pay for everything from food, shelter, and transportation to legal services that help the migrants traverse Mexico. That's why I introduced H.R. 245, the Grant Integrity and Border Security Act. This bill would require all NGOs who apply for a federal grant to certify as part of their application that they have not, will not, and are not engaging in acts that violate federal immigration law.
And we're going to head right back to that hearing after we do get in another commercial break. Stay with us.
All right, so I can rewind. I can fast forward it. Okay.
Abuse. All spectacle, no substance, all performance, no plan. On the campaign trail, J.D. Vance and Donald Trump promoted vile and xenophobic lies about Haitian immigrants in my state of Ohio. And now the Trump administration has moved to strip protections from 500,000 Haitians. These are people who have lived, worked, and contributed to this country for years. And they came here the right way, the legal way. But instead of recognizing their contributions, we are forcing them back to a country plagued by violence, instability, and humanitarian crisis. All so Trump can claim 500,000 more deportations. The cruelty isn't just the point, it's their pleasure. So let's be honest about what's really going on here. Mayor Johnson of Chicago, what sort of an impact will the Trump administration's decision to allow arrests at sensitive locations like hospitals, preschools, churches, and courts have on your city?
Thank you for that question. As a welcoming city space, it's important that the trust between the community and law enforcement is strong. That's ultimately how we have built a safer city. Just this year alone, violent crime is down 20%. Any type of threat to the civility and to the humanity of people is a threat to the evolution of our democracy. And so it's incumbent upon Washington to ensure that we are funding our education system, that we are funding our transportation system, our healthcare system, creating more jobs. Just since I've been in office, we've increased youth employment, summer jobs by over 40%. Making sure that our young people see their purpose is the value of this democracy. And so I call on this body to continue to invest in the city of Chicago that sends billions of dollars to Washington.
Thank you. Fear and cruelty are not the solution. It's distinctly un-American and a dangerous distraction from the Congress's responsibility to actually deliver progress on this challenging.
Guess what? They're still here illegally.
In our country. And with that, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Chair recognizes Mr. Groffman from Wisconsin.
Yeah, just a couple comments first. As far as the idea of who's committing crimes, we have no idea how many illegal immigrants in this country are committing crimes because nobody keeps track. Okay, if I go to a prison or a jail in Wisconsin with, 1,500 inmates, and I ask how many of these people are here illegally or how many are citizens of another country, nobody will know the answer to that question. So that's why we don't have hard facts on how many crimes people committed. The other thing I like to point out is every year in this country, about 850,000 new people from other countries are sworn in as American citizens. I don't know of Donald Trump ever talking about reducing that number. Maybe he should reduce that number, but I've never heard him talk about reducing that number. Our concern here was illegal immigration, and I would hope the vast majority of Americans think we ought to have a immigration law that the 850,000 new citizens every year go through. But if we're going to have an immigration law, it means we have to do something with the people who try to become permanent residents without going through the proper structure. Now, I think part of our problem here is we have a lot of people who don't understand why we have an immigration law at all. And I want to ask all four of you as I go down, we go down the road here, do you believe the United States should have an immigration law, or do you believe that just anybody should be able to show up and come in? And we'll start with Mayor Adams there.
I strongly believe we need to have an immigration law. I strongly believe we need to secure our borders. We witnessed a 90% decrease, and we're seeing that play out in our city. So we should have a strong immigration law.
And I'll ask this
We
question.
have an immigration law. It's just not being followed. What's this bullshit that we need a new immigration law? No, a new immigration law will have provisions for amnesty. That's what this is all about.
We should have an immigration law, and then we'll get all four of you here. If you believe that, do you believe people who ignore the law, whatever that law is, should be allowed in the country?
No.
I think that all of us must be held accountable to the law, and if we secure our borders to make sure before they come in that it's done correctly, it is not going to impact cities to carry that burden. Like I said, close to $7 billion in tax dollars.
Mr. Johnson, do you believe we ought to have an immigration law in this country, or do you believe everybody should just be able to walk in here and set up shop?
Thank you, sir. I do believe we should have an immigration law. I do believe we should have.
We have one.
Borders. I do believe we should fix our asylum process. I do believe we should let dreamers get access to permanent citizenship.
Okay, then the question is, if somebody ignores that law and comes in this country, do you believe the whoever, ICE or Border Patrol or anybody, should spin them around and send them out? Or can they just ignore the law and because they, however, cross the Rio Grande, overstating a visa, whatever, are here? Do you believe that we ought to do something to the people who are ignoring the law?
Thank you, sir. In the case of the folks we're seeing, they are coming here because they are claiming asylum. When they claim asylum, they then have a right to a day in court to see if that asylum.
Right.
That's a trick. That's a trick. They can, if they're really claiming asylum, they could go through the proper door to do that. What it is they get here illegally and they work with a nonprofit and they tell them, well, just ask for asylum and then you'll be able to stay. And then you'll have a hearing. They're gaming the system. Anyone not bringing that up, that issue up, they're being dishonest.
If I come in this country and stay here and I have not gone through any formal process to become a citizen or to be a visa, legal visa or whatever, should we kick that person out?
The folks that we're serving, sir, are trying very hard to navigate that legal process. It's often a 7-year wait for a court date when they arrive in this country. So part of it is
this is the problem. The Democratic Party gives money to nonprofits like Catholic Charities and other types of organizations, but Catholic Charities is a big one. And they will get a case manager to process an illegal alien where they will be going on the track of asylum seeking. And so now they're in the country legally for 7 years. Isn't that wonderful? And the nonprofit loves it. They're getting money from the federal government. They're processing these people. And then they can go to their donors saying how they're helping. And so the philanthropic side of the nonprofit will say, we are increasing our caseload for immigration by 30% or whatever. Please donate, X amount. That's the game that's being played. Americans need to wake the fuck up. Wow, these mayors, they don't tell you the full story here. Well, we're only processing, as this guy is saying, we're only processing people, or mostly processing people that are asylum seeking. But you're letting them game the system. They probably don't even know that they have to, they probably don't even know a lot of the things that the illegal immigrant doesn't know a lot of the things that are being navigated through the nonprofit. They're here illegally. And this asylum seeking is like drought or, war or, some sort of atrocity that's going on in their country. Not because their country's a shithole. All right, just baseline shithole. That's not what asylum is. Asylum is like war-torn country or drought, famine, something like that. All right? Not because their way of life will be better in America, because they got into a caravan that was supported by George Soros to walk thousands of miles to get to the border, cross the border, get to a nonprofit that's being funded by the Democratic Party, and then all of a sudden they're processed for 7 years for seeking asylum. That's what's going on in the United States. And unfortunately, we don't have mayors that are actually being honest. They tiptoe around with the bullshit.
Every month under President Biden, at least the statistics I have, 30 to 40,000 people, what are called gotaways, came across the southern border, didn't ask for asylum, didn't ask for anything. Do you believe that people who just come across that way should be escorted out of the country, or do you believe just because they...
I think, thanks for asking, Groffman. You know what? You know what I believe? If they went through the right process to seek asylum through the right door before they get in, then yeah, no problem. But if they're here illegally and then ask for asylum through this loophole with nonprofits, should be denied. And the nonprofit should not be getting taxpayer funds to be able to process these illegals, because that's what's happening.
Between the designated checkpoints that they, as the result, get to stay here forever.
Again, so we're serving folks who are seeking asylum or have status.
See? Because they want to put everyone. They'll say, oh, you're illegal. You know what? Go to this nonprofit and they'll help to process you. Instead, they should say, you're here illegally. We need to deport you. That's the crux of the problem here. If they were really asylum seekers, they would have processed through the right way. They could have. There are doors at the border that will help with asylum seeking. You just got to go to the right door. Not through, not over the wall, not under the wall, not through the wall. Not storm the beach. Not catapult over. The nonprofits have an incentive to be complicit with this.
Mayor Johnson, buddy from Chicago.
And we are just listening in here to this House hearing. We will be right back after our final 2-minute commercial break of the hour.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the lignans. This helps with your endocrine system and your immune system. It will bring down inflammation and soak up free radicals because it is an antioxidant. This is a powder. You mix it with soft foods or with filtered water, however you want to take it. Now, it stacks really well with turmeric, which also brings down inflammation and soaks up free radicals. This is a great stack to help with your immune system and your cardiovascular system, because by bringing down inflammation, you're going to reduce the chances of plaque buildup. And ashwagandha root brings down cortisol levels and brings down blood glucose levels. So when you do that, you're reducing inflammation in the vascular system. So by doing this stack right here, the lignans, the turmeric, and the ashwagandha, it's a very powerful dual purpose stack. And it's the third pillar of my core protocol. But lignans and turmeric and ashwagandha is a great way to bring down inflammation, boost up your immune system, and help with your cardiovascular system. I apologize for all the noise because they're doing construction in the building. But my protocol, take max 35 or max 14 for the first pillar, C60 for the second pillar, soak up those free radicals. The third pillar is this stack right here, the lignans, the turmeric, and the ashwagandha, bring down inflammation, boost up your immune system. And the fourth pillar of the core protocol is taking Boomer Boost, which will help with your metabolism and boost up your energy levels. So take this stack, really powerful, it's dual purpose. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. I am the most comprehensive person on this. So please follow my stack, follow my protocols. It's a holistic approach. Get healthy in 2025. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is as comprehensive as I am on this.
In here to live now from Fox. If you are just joining us at the top of the hour, we've been listening in live to this House hearing as lawmakers are grilling Democratic mayors over sanctuary city policies.
Actually a fact. Immigrants, both documented and undocumented, are also less likely to be incarcerated or to commit crimes than native-born people. We know this to be true. Again, these are facts, and mayors have every right to pursue the policies that you know are best for your residents. Now, the Trump administration has threatened to prosecute some of the mayors on the panel today and force them to comply with his extremist agenda. But however, Mayor Adams, you are in a different position. You, of course, are already facing serious criminal charges. And Mayor Adams, I assume that you are not going to commit perjury today. And I do believe, though, that you have an enormous amount of issues facing you ahead of you. And it means your criminal charges are absolutely relevant to us today. Bribery, wire fraud, willfully and knowingly conspiring to commit offenses against the United States. Mayor Adams, you of course deny these corruption charges against you, is that correct?
Yes. Yes, Congressman.
Thank you. Now I understand that you are proven innocent unless you're guilty, but you also have, sir, a trust problem. 4 of your deputy mayors have resigned. Now, this is serious, and Republican prosecutors agree that the evidence against
you're innocent until proven guilty, is how you phrase it. But we have wonderful lawmakers that are so smart.
Yet Trump's DOJ moved to drop these charges. Now, I just want to be just really clear and show this here. Now, look at how the Trump-appointed acting U.S. attorney who is prosecuting you described it. Because the law does not support a dismissal, and because I am confident that Adams committed the crimes with which he is charged, I cannot agree to seek a dismissal. Now, this is a conservative Republican who resigned when Donald Trump pressured her to drop the charges. And we know the Trump administration demanded that the charges be dropped. And this is key. They will be able to refile them against you, Mr. Mayor, at any time. I think, personally, that's why you sat next to the architect of family separation on Fox and Friends. Now, Tom Homan sat next to you and said the following, and I quote, "Getting on Rikers Island is step one. We're working on some other things that we don't really want to talk about on open air because the city council will be putting roadblocks up on us. The mayor and me have a commitment to several other things." Now, this was you, of course, and Mr. Homan, the architect of family separation. This is also incredibly concerning, Mr. Mayor. You sat next to him, you smiled, you badmouthed your own city council. Now, Mr. Mayor, we have a right to know if the Trump administration has actually coerced you into agreeing to anything. And Mayor Adams, I also want to be very clear. Are you selling out New Yorkers to save yourself from prosecution?
There's no deal, no quid pro quo, and I did nothing wrong. And anything dealing with this case out of deference to Judge Ho, who's now addressing it, I'm going to refer to his actions.
Well, Mr. Mayor, it appears, to me at least, that you are selling New Yorkers out. It appears that you are working with Tom Homan, who is clearly focused on family separation and deportations and harming New Yorkers and others across the country. Now, every other mayor on this panel is pursuing legal and effective policies that benefit our residents.
You know, it would be awesome. Just as a New York response, Mayor Adams should say to Representative Garcia, I don't give a damn what you think, Garcia. I'm the mayor of New York.
Please actually uphold public safety. Now, I personally agree with the majority of New Yorkers and think, Mr. Mayor, that you should resign. You should do the right thing. You should step down and resign today. And with that, I yield back.
With my friend you.
I yield.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, I want to be really clear. Were you pressured in exchange for the dropping and dismissal of criminal charges in your indictment to cooperate with the Trump administration on all fronts with respect to immigration? Did any such conversation take place?
I think I was extremely clear.
I cannot hear you, sir.
I think I was extremely clear. No quid pro quo, no agreement. I did nothing wrong but serve the people of New York City.
Thank my friend for yielding.
Chair, I recognize Mr. Cloud from Texas.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, witnesses, for being here. You know, we are indeed a nation of immigrants. I have to look no further than my own children, who are the inheritance of both my
blah,
ancestors.
Blah, 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 blah. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nanosilver toothpaste. This structural nanosilver toothpaste is something that will whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, help with the gum line. I apologize for the construction. Help with the gum line, help reduce inflammation, and with good oral hygiene, you are helping with your cardiovascular health and reducing valvular problems in your heart. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Take this very high quality toothpaste. It is fluoride free. Literally, this is the best toothpaste you can buy. I'm not joking. So get a few tubes of this toothpaste for your household. It's extremely high quality. And by having good oral hygiene, you are moving in the direction of proper health and wellness. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Another dual purpose product that I have is olive leaf extract. Olive leaf extract helps with the immune system and your cardiovascular system. How does it work? It brings down inflammation. And by bringing down inflammation, your immune system will be better. And by bringing down inflammation at the vascular level, you're reducing the chances of building up plaque. Olive leaf extract also helps to improve your total cholesterol. It brings down LDL levels and helps with your HDL levels to bring them up. So that means your total cholesterol is more in line to healthy levels. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the olive leaf extract, help with your immune system and your cardiovascular health. It's really important. It's a dual purpose product. It stacks really well with omega-3 and nattokinase and other supplements that are tied to helping with your cardiovascular health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5 on any order. Get a few products and create your stacks and target the different systems to improve your health. All right, let's.
Been exactly to the southern border.
Okay. You seem to talk about Governor Abbott and sending buses to your city. Now, I can understand the concern with that, but I will also let you know that Texas did not ask for the Biden administration to open the borders and send an exponential amount of people that have affected your city into our state. And you should know that no one forced them to go to your city. The reason they selected your city is because you have said it's a sanctuary city. Everyone was asked where they wanted to go before they got on the bus. No one asked them to get on the, or forced them to get on the bus. They did it of their own free will, and they were sent to your city because of your stated claim to be a sanctuary city. Now, one thing I can tell you, having toured the facilities, is that I've been to those facilities under the Biden administration where there was a map on the wall, and you could see the migrants kind of pointing out which city they wanted to go to. And I can also tell you, from having been through the immigration process with my wife, there's a difference between people coming here legally and then people who are, I've been at the ceremony where the people are crying with tears as they take the oath of citizenship to come to this country. Is far different than people coming across our border, waving the flags, not trying to assimilate into the United States culture, and sometimes bringing crime into our communities. This is an issue. Now, Ishmael, I want to ask you, one of the issues recently is how much FEMA dollars have gone to support migrants and hotel rooms in your communities. Mayor Adams, do you know how many FEMA dollars is spent in your city?
$80 million, and I've been to the border and I saw those maps pointing to New York.
Thank you. Mayor Johnston?
Thank you, Congressman. I know we do have some federal dollars. I have to get back to the exact amount.
It's roughly 32 million. Mayor, 38 million. Mayor Johnson?
I don't have the exact number.
It's 32 million.
I don't have the number. I'd love to know.
29 million. So, understandably,
how could she be running a city and not know where FEMA dollars?
That's their taxpayer dollars that are supposed to be going to disaster relief for them and their communities, going to illegal aliens. Yeah. Do you agree, each of you, yes or no question, I have a couple seconds. Do you recognize that it is against the law to harbor criminal aliens?
Gentlemen, time's expired. Please answer the question, Mayor Adams.
Yes, reading federal law, correct.
I do recognize that, and we do not do that.
The city of Chicago does not harbor criminals.
Yes, we follow the laws.
Mr. Chairman, I have a unanimous consent request.
Proceed.
I would ask to enter into the record 2 articles. One, talking about President Trump putting mass deportations to the heart of his campaign during the campaign. And just last night, Trump vows to use U.S. military for mass deportations.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair recognizes Mr. Frost from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the year is 1969. My abuela, Zenaida, my grandma, Yaya, gets a call. And her, my mother, Maritza, my aunt, Sandra, and my grandpa, Pepe, have to go to a plane within 24 hours because they've been approved to come to the United States. They came here as refugees in 1969 during the freedom flights from Cuba for their new life in accordance.
All right, enough of this.
This case first here and then send them on. Once you lose
14-year-old boy found after missing for 7 years. Let's listen in on it.
That you very rarely get them back. So whatever we have going on here, my focus will be to try to get as much justice as I can out of that in the context of the case that we have, and then probably figure out a way to get them where they need to be to address those charges.
Without getting too much detail with the other child, I know we have to protect his privacy. What was the relationship with the other child to the man? To the were they a couple? Would you characterize them as a couple?
I'm not going to be able to answer that question at this time. Yes. I do not have that. I know detectives are working on that.
How easy or how hard is it to stay under the radar for this long period of time to kind of limit somewhere?
Well, honestly, it's attention to detail. Again, I'm just speculating. I'm guessing over the last 7 years, they probably had contact with law enforcement, whether it be a traffic stop or what have you. And that law enforcement officer may have just taken them for their word. We have IDs that were being used. Ravia, in particular, she claimed not to have identification.
And so that's what's so great about this is our deputies and our dispatchers, they knew something wasn't right, they were following their gut, and they investigated further. They just didn't take it on face value and take the easy way out and move on. They dug and dug and dug for about 5 hours until they could figure out what was going on. I'm also proud of the fact that our deputies, while these two kids were in the middle of this, when our deputies were trying to figure this out, they went to a neighbor's house near the scene, and they got food. They were watching Blue's Clues. They were keeping these kids occupied so they weren't in fear about what was going on. I'm just exceptionally proud of the work of my deputies. With these IDs, is there a way to backtrack to see maybe it may have been stopped or questioned or whatever before? 100%. The question was is to backtrack on identification and everything else. Our financial crimes detectives do this for a living, and that's part of this investigative process. Is they will dig down, figure out when these IDs were used, where they were used, what names they were using, when they were using them. So there's a lot of work ahead of us.
Sure. What were they doing in the neighborhood? I have spoken to someone who encountered them and had an idea of some of the things they were doing. But what do you understand they were doing there? Why were they in that neighborhood?
All I can tell you is I know they went through it. The house was up for sale. They made entry to the home through an open door. As far as what their end goal was, I would only be speculating that time. Our deputies or detectives are still working on that.
Did it appear they may have been trying to steal anything? Or anything at that house?
I don't know.
Have you guys seen any Ring doorbell video that might have seen their as they moved about that neighborhood and what they might have been doing? And I know you can't show that. Can you tell us what that video shows?
That is standard for our detectives to do that on any type of criminal cases, to gather Ring doorbell footage and things like that. That is still being reviewed, and I can't comment on what they have seen.
Is he showing you the wall?
The mother had made claims to her original claim to authorities in Louisiana about making allegations against the father, and that was her claim is why she left with Aziz. As I mentioned before, those charges in Louisiana have been dismissed, and when the mother absconded with the child was when the father was going to get full custody.
Who was at the reunion? The father, well, he's not reunion. You said you spoke to the father. The father was here in Colorado, is that right?
That's correct.
And who else was there? The father and who was in that office?
I'll just say members of the family.
Can you talk about the whole process, the identification process? I would imagine that maybe Trump services, president, maybe some other state level, part of this process.
That's correct. It is a slow process. Again, this father has not had contact. He told me for like a total of 9 years that he has not seen Aziz. So this is the only life that Aziz has known, and so it is gonna take some time. So it's baby steps to get up to that point, and there's just a lot of work to be done for this youth reunification. It's not a simple process.
The deputy who we saw in the video there, he was very surprised at that aha moment that death was right. What did the deputies, how do they characterize that encounter with the parents? Were they nervous? Were they fidgety? Do you know any of that?
Well, the two suspects that we contacted, they were both very nervous. Their stories were not adding up. Our deputies would ask them, what's your date of birth? Okay, how old are you? Basic police 101 stuff that we use on a daily basis to when we think people are lying to us. These are the tactics that they use to figure out that they were in fact being lied to, that there was more going on here, and that they needed to dig deeper to figure out what was going on.
Very interesting that they were going to stay for how long?
Not that they have told me. Our deputies do an amazing job, so that is always a consideration for our deputies on the street when they're dealing with any type of an issue. One of the many things that they are dealing with when they have contact with any individual is what the unknown could be or what could happen. So there was no real concern of that, just because our deputies do an exceptional job.
How long did it take from the time they arrived at the scene to them to realize that this was a very serious scene? An hour, 2 hours?
They were out there a total of 5 hours to get this figured out, and detectives eventually responded. They knew something was up within the first few minutes of arriving that just things were not adding up. There was more to this going on. Just the stories weren't fitting with, a typical contact of somebody not breaking the law.
And sure, you may not answer this question, but typically, how long might it take for Aziz to be reunited with his family? Is there a general time frame? I don't know if you can even answer that question.
I really can't answer that question. I think it's going to take as long as it takes. It's a slow process, and they're going to take their time to do that.
And really, I've never experienced something like that before. So.
And that was just moments ago as you're taking a live look out of Denver, Colorado right now. This press briefing took place in Douglas County, Colorado. Again, that's just about 50 minutes south of Denver. This remarkable story here, a 14-year-old boy who was reportedly kidnapped by his non-custodial mother in Atlanta 7 years ago has now been found, as we just heard officials say. Authorities say a burglary call led deputies in Colorado to discover the child, Abdul Aziz Khan. Khan's mother and her husband now facing multiple felony charges. Did want to let you know we are keeping an eye on several other live events as we are keeping an eye on this hearing we've been bringing you throughout the morning as we've been hearing testimony from Democratic mayors on sanctuary city policies. That's set to resume here in just a moment, as well as keeping an eye on the White House press briefing, the first one since President Donald Trump made his address to Congress.
I'm going to go to Bloomberg here.
It's coming, but this is about fentanyl this month.
Got that. Just want additional clarity. Just to be very clear on this. Yesterday when you said, I think the president's going to figure out, you do more and I'll meet you in the middle, we're probably going to announce that tomorrow, as in today. Can we no longer expect that announcement?
No, I didn't say that. I said the president is listening to the offers from Mexico and Canada. He's thinking about trying to do something in the middle. He's thinking about it. We're talking about it. We're going to, when I leave here, I'm going to go talk about it with him. And I think early this afternoon, we expect to make an announcement. And my thinking is it's going to be somewhere in the middle. So not 100% of all products and not none. Somewhere in the middle, because I think Mexico and Canada are trying the best, and let's see where we end up. So I do think somewhere in the middle is a likely outcome.
When you say somewhere in the middle, do you mean somewhere in the middle on tariffs, as in somewhere between 0 and 25, or do you mean that certain groups, certain industries will just get a carve-out? And would that carve-out be, say, the autos? Because the president mentioned last night he's spoken to the autos CEOs. Is it carve-outs we should be thinking about here?
Yeah, I think it's by product or by region. Remember, the USMCA, right, the United States, Mexico, and Canada agreement set up some policies that said you've got to have a certain amount of U.S. content in your products to be USMCA compliant. So I think he's thinking about those categories, the USMCA compliant. And does that make sense to you, right? If you complied with the agreement, then maybe you avoid tariffs. And if you didn't comply with the agreement, well, you did so at your own risk. You knew you weren't complying, and therefore it seems likely that's a place where the president will go. Again, the president gets to make the decision. I'm there talking with him about it, and so is the team. But our expectation is that it'll be categories. It will be 25%, but there will be some categories left out. It could well be autos. Could be others as well. USMCA, go look at that. That was the agreement we made with US, Mexico, and Canada, saying those products are exempt. Everyone who didn't live under those terms did so at their own risk.
All right, that was U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick speaking with Bloomberg Television's anchor Jonathan Farrow earlier today, talking about tariffs. And again, I guess the headline coming out from Mr. Lutnick's comments is that the president may consider putting some exemptions on some of the tariffs that have been announced against Canada and Mexico, potentially getting some of that news later today. So it's stay tuned, I guess, is the way to do it.
It's stay tuned, but also if you're a business, you still have to do stuff. And
right.
We were talking earlier that whatever sector you're in, you're going to want to carve out, whether or not it's specialty components, whether or not it's steel and aluminum, whether or not it's cars. You're going to want to carve out.
All right, so the market is trading, the S&P 500 is trading at 5,814. VIX is at 22.69. Euro USD is trading at 1.07, so the US dollar is weakening relative to the euro. Oil is trading at $66.17 a barrel for WTI. BITO, Bitcoin long ETF, is trading at 20.02, and the USD Japanese yen is still hovering at the 148.86 mark. So VIX is a little elevated. Stabilized Japanese yen, little bit of weakening of the dollar, and oil overall has been selling off. It's recovering a little bit, and equity seems to be moving in an upward trajectory the last couple of hours or so. Okay, with that, let's go back to Bloomberg.
Bracing for any potential impact from the trade war too.
All right, and thank you very much. We really appreciate you hopping on there with this ever-changing story here. And Curran, he covers the economy for Bloomberg News. He's based down in Washington, D.C. We'll be touching base with him a lot going forward here. Let's get to our next guest, Stephen Meyer, New York City Retirement Systems Asset Management CIO, and he's Deputy Comptroller for the city. Steve, thanks so much for joining us here. I know you just jumped off a panel. We appreciate it. How are you guys navigating the last 6, 7, 8 weeks with all the cross-current of news coming out? How does that impact the way you manage your pension?
Well, it's certainly been interesting. What we try to do, though, is adhere to a long-term strategic plan. So for us, a lot of this is noise in terms of what's going on in the change of policy in Washington. So we're really trying to stick to our North Star, which is our strategic asset allocation. Again, we have multi-generational liabilities that we're trying to satisfy. So again, a long-term investment horizon and a long-term discipline. Now, having said that, our trustees and our beneficiaries and our participants do call. We have the privilege of servicing 800,000 public workers here in the city of New York. So they're concerned. So we need to stay on top of it in terms of just increasing the information flow of how our assets are diversified and they continue to perform as expected.
So how are they? Like 40-60 or 60-40, maybe a thing of the past. There's different mix in there, especially when it comes to alternative assets. What's the best mix?
We're about 35% in alternative assets at this point.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. And it includes, private equity, infrastructure, private credit, some small exposure to hedge funds and real estate. Of the other 65%, we're about almost 40.
We're going to go to
At the end of the day, whether an event or an announcement of some sort will be added to the schedule at the White House, we do expect a press briefing coming up this hour.
Yeah, Caroline Levitt will potentially be making some news, and of course we'll bring you any headlines from her. I would just point out, though, that if we're expecting any kind of immediate pullback in tariffs from Canada, for example, Canadian officials have signaled to Bloomberg, unless all of the tariffs go away, they are leaving their retaliatory measures in place.
What was framed as a drug war by this administration is feeling a lot like a trade war, certainly if it moves beyond today. And we're going to have the latest on this coming up from Bloomberg's Michael Shepard. And really interesting, Kayla, looking forward to this conversation with former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers. That'll be later this hour.
Yep, there's a lot to get to, but we begin, as always, with how markets are reacting to all of these changing headlines. So Charlie Pellet, how are we looking from New York?
And right now we are looking higher with the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ not just advancing, but best level of the day right now on the S&P 500 index. Stocks are gaining on word the Trump administration is said to be considering a 1-month delay for automakers from newly imposed tariffs on Mexico and Canada. As Kayla mentioned, the automaker stocks higher. Ford right now up 4%, GM up 5%, Stellantis up 7.5%. Bottom line here, the Dow gaining 309, up now by 0.7%. S&P up 37, up 0.6. The Nasdaq Composite Index up 0.9%, and the Russell 2000 Index with small cap shares in the green now, up by 0.4%. The 10-year at 4.27% with a 2-year 3.97%. Gold little change, 29.17 the ounce. Calling that flat on the day right now, but crude now down by 3.1%, 66.14 a barrel on WTI, and Bitcoin up by 2.3% now, 89,468. Moderna says it expects to launch a personalized cancer vaccine that it's developing with Merck by 2027. Moderna is currently in a late-stage trial for a vaccine for skin cancer. Moderna shares, they're pushing higher now, up by 7.1%. And Novo Nordisk is following in rival Eli Lilly's footsteps by selling its weight loss drug Wegovy directly to U.S. patients at a discount. Novo Nordisk up now by 3.8%. One additional headline right now, just getting word that VW is unveiling an affordable EV model to go on sale from 2027. Automakers higher, yes, but VW ADRs, they are gaining now by 5.4%. Recapping, S&P up 37, up 0.6% for on-demand news 24 hours a day. Subscribe to Bloomberg News now, wherever you get your podcasts. And Balance of Power continues right now. Back to go to Washington once again. Your hosts, Joe Matthew and Kaylee Lyons.
All right, Charlie Pellet, tracking the way the market is reacting to the ever-changing tariff story that's emanating from here in Washington, as well as Ottawa and Mexico City. Thank you so much. I would point out that the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, doing another television interview confirming that President Trump has indeed spoken with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau today. And the Commerce Secretary is suggesting that President Trump is leaning toward USMCA markets being excluded from the tariffs that I would remind everyone just went into effect approximately, 37 hours ago, and already we're talking about rolling things back, at least in some sectors, potentially even autos, as the Commerce Secretary told our colleagues on Bloomberg Surveillance earlier today.
The president is listening to the offers from Mexico and Canada. He's thinking about trying to do something in the middle. He's thinking about it. We're talking about it. When I leave here, I'm going to go talk about it with him. And I think early this afternoon, we expect to make an announcement. And my thinking is it's going to be somewhere in the middle.
All right. Knowing that President Trump spoke with Justin Trudeau earlier and having heard what Howard Lutnick had to say today on Bloomberg TV and radio, we're standing by for news. And so is Michael Shepard. He joins us right now, Bloomberg Senior Editor for Technology and Strategic Industries. Shep, does this feel like a master plan or jazz improv?
It feels a little more like improv and maybe modern jazz at that. It's a little harder to follow in a way because you don't know where the music is taking you, honestly. And we heard from Donald Trump last night really offering very little in the way of a signal that, hey, there could be some relief or reprieve on the way. He pointed to tariffs as really the almost panacea for the U.S. economy, doing everything to resolve all the trade issues that he sees as imbalances that are unfair to this country in his view, while also coming up with all this revenue to pay for his biggest priorities, especially boosting border enforcement and even more importantly, all those big tax cuts. And then how that squares with the relief that might temporarily come for the auto sector and, the retaliation that we're seeing from Canada already and possibly from Mexico very soon. The scoring on this music, Joe, is tough to track.
Well, if we consider the actual language that the president used in his address last night when talking about tariffs, Mike, he did say there will be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. If they decide to pause tariffs on autos or exempt autos from the tariffs on Canada and Mexico for now, at least, is that a suggestion that too much disturbance in the auto industry in particular is more than this president is willing to tolerate?
Well, a disturbance in the auto industry would be felt immediately based on our reporting. When you talk to our colleagues who cover this area, like David Welch and others and analysts who really study it, tariffs on this sector against Canada and Mexico would have an immediate effect. It would send car prices up by several $1,000s on units that consumers may be thinking about buying to replace the Hulk that's in their driveway leaking oil. And if people are faced with that kind of a choice of having to pay so much more all of a sudden, they may hold off on those purchases, and that is what the automakers are really fearing. And our reporting shows that they made a full court press to the president appealing for some sort of relief. When it comes to autos, tariffs against Canadian and Mexican goods, the sector is so interlocked. And our reporting has shown that car parts and vehicles can cross the border multiple times before it ends up as a finished vehicle on a dealer's lot.
Guess what? They need to bring back the manufacturing in the United States. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the vitamin D3. This helps to absorb calcium. It's also a gene expression cofactor for your cells, and it gets rid of cells that need to go into apoptosis. It stacks really well with K2. So if you do resistance training, take calcium or drink milk, take the K2 and the D3 together with some resistance training, and you're going to be strengthening your bones. And this is a great stack for your cardiovascular health too. D3 and K2 together. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off. I want you to get healthy in 2025. And I'm telling you exactly how to do it. It's a holistic approach. Another great pillar of the core protocol is C60. C60 is a very potent antioxidant that will soak up free radicals. And by soaking up free radicals, you're reducing less stress in the cell and you're improving the health of your mitochondria. When you improve the health of your mitochondria, then what's going to happen is you're going to have more ATP, so you're going to have more energy. When you have more energy, your cells will perform better, your tissues will perform better, and your organs will perform better. You can get this in MCT coconut oil, avocado oil, or extra virgin olive oil in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration. Higher ounce configuration is cheaper for you per ounce. So it behooves you to get the higher ounce configuration. Now, take a teaspoon a day, every day. Take it on an empty stomach for best absorption. If you work out, take it before your workout. What you'll notice is that you're soaking up the free radicals that you're producing during your workout and you're recovering quicker. So take a teaspoon a day, every day, and soak up those free radicals. This also helps with your neurons. Why? Because by reducing the free radicals in your neurons, you're improving the health of the mitochondria. You need lots of healthy mitochondria in your neurons to make neurotransmitters and to shoot off those neurotransmitters. So when you have healthy neurons, you will have a healthy brain. It's great. So the whole idea here is to soak up free radicals to improve your different tissues and to improve your immune system and endocrine system. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Take a teaspoon a day, every day, to soak up free radicals, and you'll see huge improvements, the slowing down of the aging process, and your bodily systems will improve. Use discount 5 and get $5 off. Another great product that stacks well with C60 is resveratrol. I've been taking resveratrol for decades. Resveratrol is an antioxidant, so it's going to soak up free radicals. It also helps the health of the mitochondria, so it's going to help with your energy levels. And it gets rid of senescent cells. Cells that are in senescence collect garbage. That's bad. You want to get rid of them. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take the resveratrol. Resveratrol, to get the max benefits of resveratrol, stack with C60, ubiquinol, and or NAD+. It's a great stack. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com.
Completely at his whim.
Well, speaking of his whims, he has decided to post for a second time on Truth Social in just as many minutes. The president now saying, for anyone who is interested, I also told Governor Justin Trudeau of Canada that he largely caused the problems we have with them because of his weak border policies. He goes on to say that allowed tremendous amounts of fentanyl and illegal aliens to pour into the United States. These policies are responsible for the death of many people. Jeannie, a few things here. One, last night in his address to a joint session, he actually was talking about Joe Biden, his predecessor's border policies as being really what is at issue here. Also, when we're considering fentanyl specifically from Canada, as we've repeatedly reminded our audience, 43 pounds of fentanyl crossed the northern border last year, according to U.S. data. Is it actually possible for Canada to get that down to zero? Is that what it's actually going to take here?
It is a made-up issue, as we know when we look at the numbers of fentanyl coming from Canada. And, you know, Rick was just saying he's using it as a negotiating tactic. We've heard that. He's using it to get money for the Treasury. We've heard that. He's using it because of drugs. We've heard that. The problem is there is no clear reason he is given why Americans should go through the pain that they will feel if he keeps this up. As he was talking about last night, there's going to be a disturbance. How much of a disturbance? How much pain? For how long? He also noted after that we can take it. Who is we? The wealthy? Can people on the ground take it when they go to the grocery store? The truth is,
He is acting like a bully. He has been doing it to Ukraine. He's now doing it to Canada, to our closest allies, Mexico. When we were in kindergarten, we learned that bullies bully because they are weak. He is making himself look weak. He is making the U.S. look weak, and he's hurting the market and potentially the economy long term if he keeps this up. And when we talk about what he did in the first term on China, those were targeted tariffs. And guess what? They hurt farmers so much we had to bail them out. This is a bad policy. We've known that for decades. We don't know why he is so committed to it, but he seems to be, despite everything Howard Lutnick keeps going on the air and saying.
Yeah, Donald Trump said last night, Rick, there'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. It won't be much. Will he regret saying those words? They've got to be saving that for a campaign ad already.
Yeah, first of all, he's not running again. So they can run all the campaign as they want, maybe against J.D. Vance, but he's not on a ballot again. And so I think that gives him a little bit more flexibility. Secondarily, I'm a little surprised he's actually hedging a little bit, because typically he would just say how great this was going to be and how rich it was going to make America, and he wouldn't even consider the negative impact on certain communities, farmers and manufacturers and others who would be hit by these surpluses. But remember, too, he looks at the big picture and he says, look, we've got a $100 billion trade imbalance with Canada. That's what he's trying to get at. He wants to have parity, and we'll see when we get to April 2nd, because April 1st, according to Donald Trump, he's worried you might be thinking he's kidding. And when the reciprocities hit, on top of whatever he's got outstanding by then on these trade issues, it's going to be even more significant. So I think we're only digging into the very first skirmish of this trade war with Canada and Mexico and other nations around the world.
Well, certainly that is the signal, at least at this point. He is not suggesting he's taking his foot off the gas, but perhaps pressing it down harder as we barrel toward April in the laundry list, Jeannie, of tariffs he says he will be implementing next month. To Rick's point, though, on the idea that Donald Trump, the president, may be hedging here around the idea that, yes, we could actually see some economic impact from this. Do you think that's reflective of what he's seeing in the stock market, what economic data is suggesting? Is that a hint that he is paying attention to that?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt he's seen, just as we all have, what's happened in the markets the last 2 days. There was just a study out, Gen Z men of 14 points down in terms of support for what the president is doing in the last 43 days on inflation and the cost of living. So he is seeing all of these signs. The reality is, if he keeps this up, this is a self-inflicted wound. He may find himself as the first president to deliberately engineer a severe depression or recession in the United States. Normally we see these things and they are not self-inflicted. And that is the question.
A severe
Why is he so...
She's so horseshit. We're going to go into depression because we're having parity and tariffs. Yeah, right. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the NAC. This is something that I've added to my stack. Why? There were many anti-agers that were getting positive benefits from taking NAC, so I looked into it. And you know what? They're right. So I added it to my stack. I put it on my store. And guess what? I see huge benefits. So NAC will help with boosting up your glutathione levels, and it'll help to soak up free radicals. The more ways you soak up free radicals, the better. Like I said, with the C60, it's a very potent antioxidant. Well, and that will soak up lots of free radicals. Well, glutathione is a very important pathway to soak up free radicals too. So is superoxide dismutase that you can get from the Gladiator barley or the heirloom barley that I offer. So the different ways that you can soak up the free radicals, the better for your body. But C60 is the most potent. Now, NAC also helps to calm the central nervous system. It'll get you more into parasympathetic. It helps with reducing anxiety. And if you are super anxious all the time, then your cortisol levels are higher, and that's immunosuppressive. So you want to calm your nervous system, and that will actually improve your overall immune system. So NAC is also, it helps to detoxify your liver and your kidney, especially if you take acetaminophen. Now, NAC also helps with lung health. Now, that's really important. I can't tell you how important that is, especially with what the aftershock of 2020. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. NAC is really important to take, all right? Boost up those glutathione levels, soak up those free radicals, detoxify your liver and kidney, improve the health of your lungs, and reduce anxiety. Calm down that central nervous system. Now, another great product that I have in my stack is NAD+. This stacks well with resveratrol, ubiquinol, C60. NAD+ boosts up energy levels, but it also helps to repair your cellular DNA and your mitochondrial DNA. Very important is when you get older. And NAD+ helps to protect your neurons. So if you're 40 years of age or older, you should be taking NAD+ like now, pronto. And add it to the stack. Like I said, it's synergistic with ubiquinol, resveratrol, C60. Now, let's talk about ubiquinol. Ubiquinol is the most bioavailable form of CoQ10. Most people that take CoQ10, you're not taking the most bioavailable form. This is the most bioavailable form that you can buy. All right, in my hand, right here. So, ubiquinol is an antioxidant, so it's going to help to soak up free radicals. It's synergistic with C60. Ubiquinol also helps to improve the mitochondrial health, so you're going to boost up energy levels. And ubiquinol helps to protect your neurons. Extremely important when you're 40 years of age or older. Now, like I said, a good stack, NAD+ and ubiquinol, and resveratrol. You can also stack the NAC with the ubiquinol and the NAD+. This is a good stack too. And I have now in stock Clarity Factor. Clarity Factor was out of stock for months, and now I have it in stock. Clarity Factor will help you to concentrate at work or on your school, or even if you're retired and you want more mental acuity. This is great to take. I recommend to take it once a day, but if you are a person that is in a situation where you need high cognitive function at work or in school, then taking it twice a day is what I do. You take it in the morning and then take it mid-afternoon. All right, and this will help with being able to focus, and you'll have it'll reduce that brain fog that people might have, and you'll have this energy level for concentration on something. All right, so you're going to get. So what's happening is your neurons are firing, and if you continually have these types of neurons firing, and you have other supplements that you're taking to protect your neurons, and you're taking supplements like C60 that helps to soak up free radicals, and you're improving the mitochondria in your neurons, you're going to have this neuroplasticity that is positive, and that you're going to have better memory, and you're going to have you'll think faster, and you'll have less cognitive decline when you get older. So the idea here is to take Clarity Factor every day to be able to concentrate at work or on if you're in school. And even if you are retired, all right, don't sit in a chair, be active, learn new things, take Clarity Factor, you'll be able to concentrate. Now, like I said, if you're in a situation on a regular basis where you need high cognitive function, taking Clarity Factor twice a day, in the morning and in mid-afternoon, is probably the best way. But if you're only taking it once a day, either take it in the morning or take it in the mid-afternoon. So please go to my store, get the Clarity Factor. This gets rid of that brain fog. This allows you to focus. It's going to help to support your memory. This is a great supplement to take if you're older. But it's also important to have proper diet, proper exercise, and learn new things. You need to challenge your mind. And when you do that, you're going to improve that neuroplasticity. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the Clarity Factor, and protect your neurons. Protect your neurons with the ubiquinol and the NAD+, and take the Clarity Factor to help support your memory and for you to be able to concentrate on whatever tasks that you're working on. This is a great stack. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. I've told you a lot of ways to mix and match these products, over the last 5 years or so. So please go to my store, use discount 5, get $5 off, get the supplements, stack them the way I'm telling you, and boom, you're gonna be getting healthier. All right, let's go to Bloomberg.
The China Select Committee, in a hearing that would otherwise potentially be drowned out by so many of the other headlines that are happening here today. End the Typhoons, the name of the hearing. How to deter Beijing cyber actions and enhance America's lackluster cyber defenses. Salt Typhoon, of course, what they're referring to here, and what is a concerted threat against America.
And we're lucky to be joined now by someone who is fresh off of testifying before the committee in that hearing. Laura Galante is with us. She's former director of the Cyber Threat Intelligence Integration Center and is here with us in our Washington, D.C. studio. Welcome to Balance of Power, Laura. It's nice to have you. Obviously, you already have answered a lot of questions today, but we have a few more for you, specifically when it comes to countering China specifically. What is the most effective way to do that? And does it actually involve having to play the game and hacking them right back? What would that look like?
You have to use the different levers of state power: diplomatic, military, sanctions, economic, punitive measures, in order to get across to China that we are not an acceptable target for hacking. Our critical infrastructure has been hacked, energy networks, transportation networks. This is offline. We should not be able to have American networks at risk, held at risk constantly by the Chinese military.
I want to hear more about our offensive capabilities, the extent to which you can talk about them. We hear about hacking back. We hear about, well, we could go turn the lights out if we wanted to. What is the United States actually capable of doing, having seen the offensive nature of China's posture against us?
The U.S. has long been postured aggressively to go after China's networks, right? Where there are hacks against the U.S., we need to be able to hold people to account, right? Cyber Command is one of those key agencies that's able to do that. Now, the question really happens when the question that we continue to grapple with here is now, how do we show China that it's unacceptable to go after critical infrastructure, and at the same time, we really need to be able to partner with other countries in the region who will help hold China to account as well.
Well, when we're considering partnerships, to what extent is this a public-driven effort versus having to partner with the private sector, especially, Laura, considering what we're seeing in the federal government right now with culling of the workforce in many areas? I know you have some concerns about the impact that is going to have on our cyber capabilities in particular. Can you just speak to that?
Yeah, we're really worried that the level of talent that you have in the federal government, particularly technical talent that's been recruited from the outside, if those folks leave or if those folks are pushed out, that's a real hit on America's cybersecurity actions. And here's why. Our networks in the US are overwhelmingly private networks, right? Our water systems, our energy systems, these are run by private companies or utilities. We need people who can take that information about what adversaries are doing and push it out to the front lines of the folks who are able to protect those networks.
China left a lot of breadcrumbs in Salt Typhoon. Do we have a handle on the bugs, if you will, that are in our system if they infiltrated utilities, water treatment systems, and so forth? What are they doing in there, and how do we get them out?
Look, Salt Typhoon, which back in January, a Treasury action showed that this was the Ministry of State Security, the intel guys in China, who went and hacked over 9 U.S. telecommunications providers, right? That gives core access to Americans' user data, to Americans' information. That's a huge espionage operation and a big win for China. The other big problem on this digital breadcrumbs is where the Chinese military has put pre-positioned access, sort of open doors, sleeper cells, into U.S. infrastructure that could cause chaos and really sow a level of doubt in people's basic ability to go about their day.
Are we still vulnerable, or can we get these open doors closed?
We're still vulnerable. I mean, this is one of the really hard challenges that we have here, and the asymmetry of the U.S. is a really digitally connected place, right? And in some sense here, we've got to really push better cyber defense and cyber security on the water plants, on the energy plants that are sitting there as the front line between nation-state adversaries and the American people.
Well, and when we're thinking about nation-state adversaries, obviously concerns around that go beyond China, thinking specifically of Russia here, especially in light of the mixed reporting we have gotten about the Pentagon and Cybercom potentially ceasing operations when it comes to Russian cyber activity. Specifically, how concerned are you about that? What would that actually do to our ability to counter threats like this or gather intelligence even?
Russia's a core adversary in cyberspace for the U.S. If we stop planning operations, if we stop any of the muscle memory that goes into building packages that are able to target and counter aggressive Russian activity against the U.S., that'll really put us behind. And it's that constant ability to understand how Russian activity goes at U.S. networks that we've got to keep our eyes on and really keep people focused on in the government if we're going to win this domain.
Could we wage a cyber war? Do we have the tools that would be required to do this in a real sense?
The U.S. has the preeminent capability in this space, but Russia,
We're careful
China,
about using it.
We're careful about using it. We follow the rule of law. Like, that is what sets us apart from authoritarian regimes in Russia and China. And that's a core difference on how we're operating in this space.
Well, at least how we've been operating in the space. Do you sense that there's going to be a shift in this kind of cyber policy from this administration? Have they actually articulated the way in which they're approaching threats like these? We certainly didn't hear anything about cyber or even artificial intelligence, for that matter, in President Trump's address last night.
I think that's the right question. One of the huge issues that we've collectively been grappling with for years now that I'm curious to see how this administration takes on are ransomware actors. These are criminal groups, almost always based in Russia, and they're holding American hospitals hostage through their network security practices. We've had ambulances diverted from ransomware attacks. Are these folks going to have consequences pushed against them in Russia? That's a big question and really critical for Americans.
I want to know about your experience today. You were called to testify on Capitol Hill in front of a very important committee that is taking the time to get into this, I think we've already established, very important story. Do these lawmakers know what questions to ask? Are they read in? Do they understand the threat?
I think the Hill understands that the level of espionage and attack
we're gonna go
capabilities
to the White House
BDSC
briefing.
today.
Yeah.
Mary Margaret Olahan, who is the Daily Wire's first ever White House correspondent. Congratulations, Mary Margaret. The Daily Wire was founded 10 years ago by Ben Shapiro. The Daily Wire now has over 1 million paid subscribers, a monthly network reach of 138 million, and has evolved into a leading conservative multimedia giant. They are now the 5th largest podcast network in the world and home to some of the top-ranked shows. With that, I will take your questions, and Mary Margaret, why don't you kick us off?
Thank you so much, Caroline. It's great to be here. Thanks. So I had 2 questions, if that's okay. The first one last night and the second on Maine. You talked about behavior from Democrat lawmakers, a lot of disruptions, and I just wanted to kind of go back to that. We saw Democrat lawmakers not stand for Lincoln Riley, for Peyton McNabb, for the son of a slain police officer, 13-year-old cancer survivor. What are the optics of that nationally, just in terms of not just the people who were in the room last night, but across the nation? And also, was President Trump expecting this type of behavior when he was crafting his speech?
So I gave a quote to the media outlets in this room yesterday that Democrats behaving like children would be the least surprising thing of the night. And unfortunately, that quote did turn out to be true. I think the president and everyone, frankly, was surprised by the Democrats refusing to stand for not the president's policies, because frankly we expected that, but for the everyday Americans who President Trump was shining a light on their stories. Mark Fogel, for instance, an American school teacher who was detained by the Russians. President Trump freed him. If Joe Biden had done that, they all would have been on their feet, but because of what came from President Trump, they weren't. So we think it's very sad, but we're very proud of the president today. And the American people are the people that this president cares about most, and the reviews are in, and everybody loved his speech.
Thank you. And then on Maine, we know that the governor of Maine has really pushed back against the president's executive order saying that boys should not be in girls' sports. I spoke with a lawmaker from Maine this morning who told me she'd been censured by state lawmakers for calling a man a man and speaking up on this. What is the next move in the White House in this battle to protect the integrity of women's sports?
Yeah, well, the Department of Education has sued the state of Maine. As you know, there's ongoing litigation. The president has made a commitment to ensure that states are being held accountable if they continue to allow men and women's sports, which he believes is an egregious violation of taxpayer dollars. And so that fight continues, and the president won't back down. Again, this is a common sense policy. 80% of the American people, including more than 60% of Democrats, do not want men and women's sports. So the president will stand by his commitment. Thank you. Hey, good to see you in here.
Good to see you, Caroline. A couple questions. One, can you confirm that the president held talks with the big three?
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the zeolite. This helps to detoxify your body from heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals. Take 2 small drops underneath your tongue and drink filtered water. Do that every day. If you want a more intense detoxification, take 5 small drops underneath your tongue, drink filtered water every day until the bottle is done, and then do that once or twice a year. But the thing is that a maintenance every day of 2 drops, small drops, every day, drinking filtered water is really important. Also, make sure all the water that you drink is filtered, and stay away from processed foods because they have a lot of chemicals. And clean your environment. Make sure that the environment that you live in, you don't have harsh chemicals in your basement or in your garage or in your closets, because they do cause problems with your endocrine system or your immune system. So it's really important to try to reduce that exposure. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Take the zeolite, detoxify your body. Do it every day.
Manner, as the president said, but he's not going to stop standing up for the American people. And to answer your question directly when it comes to fentanyl, for the last 4 years, unfortunately, our neighbors to the north and the south, Canada and Mexico respectively, have allowed America to be a dumping ground, not just for illegal aliens, but for illegal, poisonous, deadly fentanyl, which is now the #1 killer of young people in this country aged 18 to 34. Through the northern border in Canada, in last fiscal year alone, there was enough fentanyl seized to kill 4.8 billion people. And that number is up 2,050% from 2023, the year before. So there's been more than a 2,000% increase in illegal fentanyl seizure at the northern border. Why? Because Canada is allowing that fentanyl to come to the United States. The president sees these numbers. He thinks about the lives that are lost. And everybody in this room, I'm sure, everybody watching at home, everybody across the country knows someone in our lives who has been killed at the hands of this deadly poison. There needs to be repercussions for that. The president feels very strongly about it.
It's just 43.
The reality of the situation is that there's a supply and a demand issue. You got to break both. You got to break the supply and you need to break the demand. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Max 14 or Max 35. Take a teaspoon a day, swish it in your mouth, gargle, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, then swallow, boost up your innate immune system. This is the first pillar of a 4-pillar protocol that I have. The first pillar is to take the Max 35 or Max 14 to improve your innate immune system. C60 to bring down free radicals. The third pillar, take the turmeric, the ashwagandha, and the lignans to bring down inflammation and boost up your immune system. And take Boomer Boost to boost up your energy levels and your metabolism. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the Max 14 or the Max 35. Really important. If to boost up that immune system. All right. Another great product that I have is structural nanosilver gels. You can get it in a quick dispenser form or in a tube form. Get structural nanosilver gel for your house, your household, or for work. If someone's sick around you, put it on your hands, around your mouth, around your eyes, around your nose, around your ears, lightly coat your nostrils. It stays active for 5.5 hours. Heal your skin. Let's say you have a cut or abrasion or a minor burn. It'll heal it quicker. You can use this as an aftershave. Guys, after you shave your face, apply it on your face and it'll soothe your shaving. Women, you shave your legs to reduce the razor burn, use the structural nanosilver gels. It's a dual purpose product. And you can use it as a daily skincare. All right? You can apply it on your skin at night and exfoliate in the morning, and you'll notice that your skin is healing. And it's clear. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get these great structural nanosilver products. The gel is a dual purpose. And when you need it, you need it. But you know, if you don't have it in your household or at work, when you need it, it's too late. So just be prepared, all right? Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com.
Of his speech. And so it goes to my earlier point that I made in my monologue about how incredibly sad it is that we have a modern day Democrat Party who is so severely out of touch with the American public. This is a great poll. The ultimate poll, though, came on November 5th when the president won by an overwhelming margin that he spoke about last night. Democrats weren't happy to hear that either. Reija.
Thank you, Caroline. Back on tariffs, last night President Trump said there will be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. Can you put a dollar figure amount on how much the average American family should expect to pay as this disturbance? And why should Americans be okay with that when so many are already struggling to pay the bills?
Well, first of all, last night, the president told the truth. And he was realistic, and he level set with the American people. And I think, frankly, it's very refreshing. And everybody in this room should be very grateful that we have a president who tells the truth about the reality of the economic situation that we are in. Unlike the previous president who lied to everybody's faces, saying inflation was transitory, saying it was under control, saying that the border was secure, when none of that was true. So the president is being frank and honest. And the American people elected this president to have monumental reform and change, including rebuilding our manufacturing base in this country, standing up to foreign nations who have been ripping off our country for decades. And that requires a little bit of disruption. That requires a lot of effort and work that this president is focused on doing. With that said, as the president said last night, his administration is wholeheartedly committed, of course, to ending the inflation nightmare caused by the Biden administration. Look at the deregulation efforts. Look at the president's push last night in his speech for Congress to pass tax cuts, to end taxes on Social Security and overtime pay for hardworking Americans, end taxes on tips. We need Congress to get that done because that's going to put more money back into the pockets of the American people. And I didn't even mention energy. Look at the president's approach and focus on unleashing the might of our energy industry. We know that's the #1 driver of inflation. He's been slashing back a lot of the burdensome regulation from the previous administration to unleash our energy industry here at home, which will drive down costs. He said he is committed to making America affordable again. He did it in his first term, and Americans can trust him to do it again.
President Trump has made clear, Caroline, that he loves tariffs, but the stock market does not. How does he factor that into his decision making?
Well, the president does love tariffs. He said it's one of his favorite words of the English dictionary, and he believes in tariffs because they'll ultimately make America rich again. They're going to raise revenue. They're going to help us pay down our debt. Most importantly, they're going to bring American jobs here back home. So I think for folks on Wall Street who may be concerned, look at what this president did for you in his first term. Wall Street boomed, stock market boomed. The president expects that to happen again, but most importantly, Main Street is going to boom, and that's why the president has this whole of government economic approach, which includes tax cuts, tariffs, regulation cuts, and an energy industry that will bring down costs for American consumers.
The stock market is going to be supported at the 5,750 level or the 5,500 level. It's a time to buy because what's going to happen is through the tariffs, as they're working through the economy, And as that news gets digested into the financial markets, institutional investors are going to be buying into the market, and eventually it's going to start to go up. You have to remember that they're trying to get the tariff policies out of the way, and then Congress is going to start negotiating a bill for tax reduction. When that passes, the stock market is going to rally. And this is the time to not worry and just to buy into the market. Now, right now, the current psychological or fib sequence support levels are at the 5,750 and the 5,500 mark. Now, I'll update you as the market progresses throughout the year, but this is not a time to worry. It's actually a time to buy. Accumulate shares in the market.
China said yesterday that they're ready for any kind of war with the U.S. Because of these tariffs that have been placed on them. And a Chinese spokesperson also said that the tariffs would not lead to a resolution of U.S. concerns about fentanyl originating in China. Can you speak to how the administration is planning on responding to that? Well, I think Secretary Hegseth has responded to that this morning. He said that America will always be prepared to defend itself, especially under the leadership of this president in the Oval Office. And that certainly remains true. Again, when it comes to tariffs, the president has been very tough on China, not just now with 20% and more with the reciprocal tariffs that will hit on April 2nd. But look at what he did in his first term. There were billions of dollars worth of tariffs that he implemented on China. And it's quite telling that the previous administration did not rescind those tariffs because they realized the value that they had in not only deterring China, but also raising revenue here in the United States. Rachel.
Thanks, Caroline. Just a quick follow-up, two quick follow-ups on tariffs. The president mentioned a little disturbance during his remarks yesterday. The CEO of Target says that consumers will likely see prices go up on everything from strawberries to bananas to avocados. How long should Americans expect to pay higher prices? Are we talking a week, a couple of days, a few months?
Again, I don't have a crystal ball, but what I can assure the American people is that this president and this administration is doing everything they can. And I would remind you and everybody else in this room that it's because of the previous administration's economic policies that
the news is just focused on the immediate. How long is it going to take before the prices go back down? They're not focused on, like, are we bringing jobs back and making the economic cluster more stable, more robust. We don't have a robust system. We're depending on others. We don't need to. And so what if your strawberries are more expensive? Or your avocados? Stop buying them. You can live without avocados. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the collagen peptides. This has an amino acid profile shown on the screen. You can take a look at it on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com, to look at the labels closely. But collagen taking collagen peptides every day is a dual purpose. All right. It will help with your skin. It will help with your hair and your nails, but it will also help with your joints, your cartilage, your tendons, your ligaments, and your bones. So take this every day, mix it with soft foods like yogurt or hummus or filtered water or a smoothie. Some people mix it with milk. It's up to you, but it's important that you take this every day. You get a big scooper. This is about a month's supply. Take 1 scoop a day and do that every day. Do some resistance training to help with your bones, help with your muscles, help with your joints. And also you'll notice that your skin will improve, your hair will improve, your nails will improve. Now, to get the max benefit for the skin, take my vitamin C and drink about 64 ounces of water. If you can't drink 64 ounces of water, try to drink 32 ounces of water. That water needs to be filtered water, right? Make sure the water you drink is filtered. And you're drinking the 32 ounces or the 64 ounces a day. You're taking the vitamin C and the collagen, and you're doing some resistance training. But what's going to happen is it's going to cross-link. And when it cross-links, the collagen cross-links in your skin with that filtered water, what's going to happen is that your dermal layer over time is going to improve. And you can also use the topical, which is the structural nanosilver gel, to help with the health at the topical level. But the collagen and the vitamin C cross-linking with the water, the filtered water, helps with the dermal layer. Now, to improve your basal layer, take C60 and resveratrol. And what that will do is it'll improve your basal layer, and therefore when you produce new cells for your skin, because your skin typically has about 7 layers. So what happens is that you're creating new skin cells at the basal layer, and as they move up towards the surface, they build up more keratin. So the cell at the top is dead. It's full of keratin, and it'll flake off. But the cells below it are less dead, and their keratin levels, have a different amount. And the closer you get to the basal layer, the less keratin you have. So the basal layer health is really important. You'll improve that with the C60 and the resveratrol, all right, because they're strong antioxidants, and it's helping with the mitochondria, and resveratrol helps to get rid of cells that need to go into senescence, it helps cells to go into apoptosis if they are in senescence. That's what I meant to say. So, but the point here is that by taking C60 and resveratrol, you're going to improve your basal layer. You're improving your dermal layer with the collagen and the vitamin C and drinking the filtered water, and you're improving your topical layer by taking the structural nanosilver gel. So that's a great way. And you can do that whole protocol and do some resistance training, and you're going to be improving your joints too and your bones at the same time. So this is a great product. Now, some people would say, oh, this is expensive, collagen. I understand that people are concerned about the price of taking supplements on a regular basis. I get that. So please use my discount 5 to get $5 off. Also, if you take a look at my anti-aging boxes or my longevity boxes, I've discounted them compared to purchasing the products individually. And you can put the discount 5 on top of that. So I've curated boxes the best way I can to be able to bring the price points down, so I can get these products into your hands that you're using them. Now, you can buy the individual products on my store. That's up to you. But the thing is that these are very high quality products. That's why they're expensive. They're very high quality. And these are products that I take. I'm not selling anything to you that I don't take. All right. So everything I sell, I take. So, and it's high quality, but this collagen is a little bit more expensive. But the reason is that it's a higher quality collagen. So please go to my store. And like I said, if you follow how to use it, these dual purposes that I talk about, you're actually targeting multiple systems at the same time, your skin and your bones at the same time. So if you listen to my advice, you're saving money in the long run. Please, and you're getting high quality products. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the collagen and peptides, and follow the protocol that I just mentioned to improve your joints, improve your bones, and improve your skin. Another great stack is taking collagen with the D3 and the K2. Take vitamin D3 and vitamin K2, that's on my store, and take the collagen and do the weight training, and it'll help with bone health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com.
Again, in an effort of transparency to the American people, because this is an important issue and the American people, this president understands that it is. And again, that's why in his joint address to Congress last night, he addressed this issue with a realistic and honest approach. He talked about what this administration is doing to unleash American energy and to make America.
I want to go over I want to go over to Bloomberg. They're talking to Larry Summers. Larry Summers was heavily involved in deregulating banks that caused Lehman under the Clinton administration. Just keep that in mind.
There have been huge problems in the way we have protected our borders. We've emphasized too much things other than excellence in hiring workers for too long. We've had too much regulation that has slowed things down too much and made it expensive to build things. Sometimes other countries have taken advantage of the United States. And so there are impulses here that are right. But if you do things too impulsively, too quickly, too carelessly, and with too many conflicts of interest where the people who are advising you are also the people who are profiting from you, then I think you're taking big risks with our economic system.
Well, so, Mr. Secretary, you just said a lot that we can unpack here. When it comes to tariffs, we read you. What will be the economic impact of the DOGE? Because that's bringing an enormous amount of confusion as well. Hesitancy to hire is the headline on the ADP jobs report today. Elon Musk is on Capitol Hill meeting with members of the House and Senate right now, presumably to connect the dots between what the DOGE is finding and some form of legislation that will be leading its way to a budget. But the fog that's coming from DOGE with the wall of receipts, some of the claims that have not turned out to be true, the gutting of the IRS means what for our economy?
I think it means more chaos, higher prices, and probably next to no progress on the government deficit. Look, the IRS needs more workers, not fewer. In one recent 3-year period, there were 100 people who had incomes over $10 million who didn't even get their returns audited in any way when they didn't file any return at all. So yeah, we got to work on the IRS, but when we go cutting the air traffic safety systems, when we go slashing thousands of people whose job it is to enforce the tax law and to man the helplines, and we do it on an impulse and a few hours study by a person with no past experience in government, gee, I think that's dangerous. And that's the American part of it for the economy. That's probably what's most important to Americans. I have to say that when I read that the United States has for decades, since President Bush, who was certainly no fiery liberal, put in place a program to build goodwill for the United States by providing medicines for AIDS and other diseases that has saved millions of lives, saved more than 1 million lives per year. When I see that medicine from that program has just been ruthlessly cut off, despite congressional approval, with no protection or careful thought, and that people are dying because the United States just decided to go do a bunch of experiments.
Think about his deregulation that led to Lehman and all the suffering that took place when people lost their homes or lost their savings. No self-reflection.
Always when the stock market went up, he was always linking it to what he did. And we couldn't have had clearer evidence over the last couple days that when he's pursuing the policies about which he's enthusiastic, the market is plummeting. And when he's reversing course, the market is rallying.
Yeah.
And I hope that'll be a lesson on many aspects of the broad approach.
Well, it also is creating an interesting split screen, Mr. Secretary, because as we have the conversation here about the rattling of U.S. equity markets, everything you just talked about in terms of what potentially could be happening in the U.S. economy, you are seeing a flood of capital into Europe as Germany is now signaling they're going to have a whatever it takes approach to increase spending. We've seen a flood into European equities, obviously massive action in the bond market today. Is this the end potentially of U.S. exceptionalism?
I think it would be premature to say on the basis of anything that happened in a few days or even a few weeks that it was the end of U.S. exceptionalism. But I will say this, I think the broad approach we are taking to the rest of the world represents the biggest threat to the U.S. dollar's role as the central currency in the world economy that we've had in the last 5 decades. And if I were still sitting at the Treasury Department, I would be terrified about the consequences of the kind of rhetoric that the president is engaging in vis-a-vis other countries. I would be alarmed by the way in which China and Europe were being magnets for capital as people rushed out of dollars, were increasingly allying with each other because they had both been alienated from us, and knowing that I was going to have trillions and trillions of dollars that I had to place, and that I was part of an administration that was going to raise substantially the scale of the national debt with these new ideas like not taxing overtime or not taxing tips and extending the tax cuts for businesses and the wealthy in a massive way, so that we were looking at budget deficits that could easily exceed $2 trillion a year. I had to place all that debt when the president was calling out and yelling and complaining about all the countries that were traditionally the biggest buyers of the debt. And the president was saying that anything was legal as long as it was working for the survival of the country, and he wanted to do it. I'd be hugely alarmed about the role of the dollar in our system, and I'd be doing everything I could to try to persuade the president to change course. Now, in fairness, I wouldn't be doing it publicly. I'd be doing it behind closed doors. But we have a Treasury Secretary whose principal comment on the president has been to suggest that he should win a Nobel Prize for his appeasement of President Putin. So I think we have a really serious set of issues that may loom. There's time to change. There's time to change course. There's time to eliminate these kinds of tariffs. There's time to try to draw on the expertise in the Doge in more responsible ways. And if that happens, I think things could work out well. But gosh, we're looking at some risks and uncertainties of a kind we haven't seen before. You know, Wall Street, as you know better than I, because you report on it all the time, has this thing, the VIX, the so-called fear gauge. It went up by almost 50% in a matter of a couple days because of the things that were being said. So I just hope that
that's disingenuous. That's disingenuous, where you go from 15 to about 25, 26, 29. Big deal. Big deal. It was under his policy when we hit almost 80. 60. Tried try trading in that hell.
Agree to me.
That VIX is down today, but still holding above 22. Larry, it's really great to have you with us here on Balance of Power. We do appreciate the conversation. The former U.S. Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, of course, Harvard University President Emeritus, with his insights on tariffs, tax cuts, and a lot more today in a live conversation on Bloomberg TV and radio.
And guess what? Master architect of deregulating the banks with Clintons. And remember Rubin? Yeah. Don't forget what they did. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the Boomer Boost. This is the fourth pillar of my core protocol. This will boost up your energy levels and increase your metabolism. You will lose weight, and you will notice that when you start taking this, that your body is performing better within 72 hours. You're going to have more energy, more vitality, and that energy level isn't spiking. It's a steady burn throughout the whole day, and you will sleep better. Now, it has 68 nutrients. Go to my store to take a look at the extensive contents that are in the Boomer Boost. But you take this either for your breakfast or for your lunch. It's a powder. This is a month's supply. You take 1 scoop a day, and you mix it with filtered. You mix it with like filtered water, or some people mix it with milk. I mix it with soft foods like hummus or yogurt. Some people put it in a smoothie. But the whole point is that this is your breakfast or your lunch. And you're going to lose weight, and you're going to start improving your brain health, your heart health, your cardiovascular health, and your strength. Your muscles will be better, and your metabolism is going to go up, and you're going to have more energy. All right, and you're going to notice that you're sleeping better, and literally within 72 hours you're going to feel this difference. All right, so take a scoop every day. So please go to my store and get the Boomer Boost. This is the fourth pillar of the core protocol. The first pillar is taking Max 35 or Max 14. The second pillar is taking C60, soak up those free radicals. Taking turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans to bring down inflammation, help your immune system, and taking the Boomer Boost to boost up your energy levels and your metabolism. And it's also focusing on different systems, your musculature, your heart, and your vascular system, and your brain. So it's a great supplement to take. Now, if you're an athlete, this is a great supplement to take for your pre or your post workout. And you'll notice that you're recovering quicker and you have all the energy that you need, especially if you're in extreme sports like triathlons, marathons, long distance biking. So please go to my store and get the Boomer Boost. Now, Boomer Boost will work even better by taking the barley that I have. I have 2 different types of barley. Now, you can take the barley separately, or you can take it with the Boomer Boost. You can take the Gladiator barley or the heirloom barley. Now, what's the differences? Heirloom barley will help to detoxify your body, bring down inflammation, and soak up free radicals by superoxide dismutase. It's a high-density protein. You take a half a scoop or a full scoop a day. It's about a month's supply. And you mix it the same way as you would mix it for Boomer Boost. Soft foods, filtered water, milk, however you want to do it. It's a high-density protein. You can't get the high-quality nutrient barley at a regular store compared to what's in this container. You can't buy it, all right? So at a regular grocery store. So the heirloom barley is very beneficial for detoxification, reducing inflammation, and soaking up free radicals. It works even better when you stack it with the Boomer Boost. And by doing this, you're going to lose weight, you're going to get your protein, And not just that, you're detoxifying your body, bringing down inflammation. That's going to be very beneficial for your immune system. You're soaking up free radicals. You're going to have lots of energy. You're helping with your heart and vascular system, and you're helping with your musculature and your brain health. So this is a great stack. Now, for people that want an extra benefit of strength, that's when you take the Gladiator barley. You can take the Gladiator barley by itself. It's, again, a high density protein. Take a half a scoop or a full scoop a day, and you get all the benefits of the heirloom barley, but you also get these strength benefits. And you do your weight training, all right? And guess what? You're going to be building muscle. Now, for ones that want to fuel their workout, take the Gladiator barley. But ones that just want to maintain muscle, because when you get older, you start to atrophy, you need to take Gladiator barley. Now, you can stack. A great stack would be taking Gladiator barley and the Myotrol together. Myotrol, like I said, helps with the gene expression to build muscle. Gladiator barley is the ingredients to help build muscle. When you stack the Boomer Boost with Gladiator barley, you are losing weight, you're gaining muscle, you're controlling your A1C levels, so you're controlling your blood glucose levels, you're going to have lots of energy, you're helping with your heart health, and you're helping with your brain health. And when you stack it with Myotrol, like I said, you're getting huge benefits with building muscle. So if you're an athlete, a great way to fuel your workouts is to take the Boomer Boost and the Gladiator barley with the Myotrol, because you're getting the gene expression the gene expression help by the Myotrol. You're getting the nutrients that you need for proper health and strength from the Boomer Boost, and you're getting the high density protein, reducing inflammation and soaking up free radicals and detoxifying your body with the Gladiator barley. And when you're doing all that, you're actually recovering quicker if you're an athlete, and you're building strength in your sport. But even if you're just older and you're not into athletics, taking the Gladiator barley with the Boomer Boost gives you the max benefit for building up some muscle, because even when you're older, you need to do some resistance training, some cardio, some balancing exercises, and some stretching. Do that on a regular basis throughout the week, and take the Boomer Boost and the Gladiator barley every day, and you're going to notice that you are building strength. And that's really important when you get older, even if you're not an athlete. And you get even additional benefit if you stack it with the Myotrol, which it helps with the gene expression to build muscle. So this is a great combo. If you want to reduce diabetes, boom, take the Boomer Boost and the Gladiator barley. If you want to build muscle, take the Boomer Boost and Gladiator barley. You want to reduce inflammation and soak up free radicals and have more energy and help with your heart and your musculature and your brain health, take the Gladiator barley and the Boomer Boost. Now, if you're not concerned about gaining strength, then the stack here would be the best stack. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the Boomer Boost, the Gladiator barley, and the heirloom barley. I have a box called Longevity Boost Box, and you get in the Longevity Boost Box, it's priced lower than buying the individual products. You get the Boomer Boost and your choice of heirloom barley or Gladiator barley for that Boomer Boost box, the Longevity Boost Box. All right, your choice of Gladiator barley or heirloom barley, and you get the Boomer Boost. When you do that, it's going to be a little cheaper than purchasing these separately, and you can use discount 5 on top of it. So I'm doing the best that I can to get you these products at a reasonable price, but you got to remember, these are extremely high quality items. There's no cutting corners with this stuff. This is like super high end. All right, so take this. You're going to improve your health. And literally, I'm not joking, take these two together, or take these two together, and you're really going to start seeing benefits within 72 hours. 72 hours. and you do a little bit of resistance training, and you're going to get even more benefits from it. And you're going to be controlling your glucose levels, and you're going to be losing weight, and you're going to be feeling healthy, right? And you're going to be slowing down that aging process, and you're going to have more energy, and you're going to be doing more. You're going to have more vitality. Please go to my store and get the Boomer Boost and the Gladiator Barley or the Heirloom Barley. And remember to use discount 5 to get $5 off. And if you want it even cheaper, get the Longevity Boost Box. Well, that's the transmission for today. Thank you for listening. For the ones that were listening on Rumble, watching the live stream, also thank you for the ones that were watching the live stream on YouTube and the dashboard of the market, and the ones that have been listening on X Spaces. I greatly appreciate you listening and tuning in. I will do another show tonight. And please help support my work by going to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and getting the great products that I offer and stack them the way I'm telling you. These are products that I take every day to enhance my health. And if you stack it the way I'm telling you, and you take a holistic approach to this, like I've been saying, then you are going to improve your health and wellness. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day.